Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Friday, June 12th. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day that we have been waiting for a very long time. Today is the day that I think, quite frankly, the entire stock market has been waiting for, which is the historic SpaceX IPO. It is happening today, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be kind of crazy. I am just finding out that this SpaceX IPO, I thought it was going to happen at 1 p.m., which was going to require me staying live all day. Apparently, it's going to be trading at 10 a.m. Eastern. So it will be live in just about an hour, and we will officially have the SpaceX IPO ready to go, which is kind of crazy because usually the IPOs tend to happen a little bit later throughout the day. It's already been priced at 135, obviously. And it seems like it's going to open based on some of where the perpetual futures are trading at around 175. And so we'll see what ends up happening. But it's a pretty exciting day, folks. It's a pretty exciting day. Elon Musk will officially become the world's first trillionaire. I mean, he basically already is, but it will be officially part of his net worth once the company officially is public, and potentially the valuation gets 2.2, 2.3 trillion. It'll be even more. So expected valuations 1.75 to 1.8, and we're going to see how aggressive it can get. I got one share for those that are asking. One share. My dad called me this morning. He ended up getting 14 shares. So shout out to Robinhood. They looked out for Pops. I did get one share, which is nice. It feels like you're, part of the story with one share at $135. And, maybe that share doubles today. Who knows? But my dad got 14. Put in the chat how many shares you got. I went on X in the morning, and a lot of people got about one share. I mean, some people got 20, some people got 30. I didn't see anyone with more than 100, to be honest. And that was very rare for me to see anyone who got 100. Got 14, got 2, got 1, got 1, got 1. Your dad always gets more shares than you. Yeah, in Figma, they gave him 50 shares. They gave me one share. But somehow he ended up getting 14 shares. A lot of people saying 0. I got 44. I asked for hundreds. Yeah, I guess if you ask for a lot, they try to give you. But then again, I know some people that asked for a couple thousand and they got 2 shares, right? So whatever lottery process they use to be able to figure out exactly how to get this to happen is part of the reason for who gets the shares and who didn't. But regardless, that's what we got. S&P 500 is up right here in the pre-market. We're going to talk about a lot in terms of what happened yesterday, but at 9:50, I think we get the official pricing of the IPO. We all know it's supposed to be expected at 135, and then we will get the actual IPO at 10 a.m. And so we're going to get to see how it trades pretty much as soon as the market opens. Which I thought we would have to wait till 1 p.m. So we'll have a regular marketing close today. We won't have to be live all day waiting for the IPO, but I'm sure there will be a lot to analyze as soon as the company does go public, and then we will keep going from there. Historic day, regardless of what you think about Elon, the valuation, obviously I'm not a fan of SpaceX's valuation. I think when you really look at it, it doesn't make sense from a lot of angles. I'm not a fan of kind of the way they've been making sense of the IPO, all these random deals, and now it's a neocloud and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, what I can't argue with is that this is American innovation and ambition being rewarded at its finest level. I mean, the fact that Peter Thiel gave Elon Musk hundreds of millions of dollars when he was 32 years old after selling PayPal, and quite frankly, Peter Thiel didn't even like Elon that much, and he was trying to, say, hey, I'm going to build this massive space rocket company. The idea that that's being rewarded in the way that it's rewarded right now by the public markets, even if the valuation is up there, for doing something that's an N of one thing. Really, it's Rocket Lab and SpaceX that have been able to. By the way, look at Rocket Lab, right? They're up 2.8%. We'll get some big news on Rocket Lab. We'll talk about it in a second. It's an N of one company that's been able to do something, and it's been able to do something that has been monumental across the entire world. So the entrepreneur in me is so inspired by what SpaceX has been able to do that I think it does deserve a premium on the valuation. It does deserve to be welcomed and championed. Then again, it's also a business, and there's going to be a lot of volatility that comes with the actual stock because you have a lot of different participants who have different perspectives on it. But the fact that you're allowed to have those different perspectives, the fact that it can be speculated on, and the fact that at the end of the day, it is a business, which even if it's not fully profitable, doesn't have the best cash flows yet, it has done something that is so hard to do. The fact that everyone gets to own a piece of a share of it, I think that's really cool, regardless of if you agree with the valuation at which the shares are being distributed right now. And so just an exciting day. See that be rewarded. America is one of the only places where something like that really happens many, many, many times. And it will be pretty cool to see it actually trading live. And then we're going to get to analyze it the cool thing about the stock market in this game is we get to analyze it forever, right? It's not something where you get to a certain age and you can't do it anymore. Like, this is just a game of mental acuity and your ability to just analyze things. And now we get to have SpaceX financials and numbers and earnings calls for a very long time. So excited to cover it. And we're going to see how this ends up playing out today. Robinhood right there, down a little bit in the pre-market. Microsoft's up a little bit. As you can see, we're pretty green in the pre-market, and there's a reason for why. We'll talk about what happened yesterday with Trump and kind of how the market ended up reversing and if that is sustainable. S&P with a couple red candles right there, but still relatively green in the pre-market. Yesterday was pretty big. We had a lot of different catalysts happen. We'll talk about that and kind of analyze what it means for the SpaceX IPO. The sort of TLDR is whatever could have happened yesterday that needed to happen to set up a good macro on a Friday SpaceX IPO did happen. Didn't happen for Adobe, unfortunately. We will talk about Adobe. Wow, it lost 200 pre-market. The street just does not like this name, even though the numbers were decent, but rest of the markets are relatively green on today. Triple V, thank you for being here. Thank you for the $200 super chat. Deeply appreciate you. And thank you for being part of the show. And thank you for the super chat. All right, so let's get started with what happened yesterday and get into it. First of all, before we get into any of the macro news in regards to Iran and Trump, I did not know that 5 new companies were going to get to join the NASDAQ. And yeah, they did. 5 companies announced yesterday that are officially joining the NASDAQ 100. This came as a surprise to me. I think it came as a surprise to a lot of people. People just didn't know that the announcement was happening. Nebius, Rocket Lab, CoreWeave, Teradyne, Astera Labs. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty freaking cool. Now, does it look a little shady that Rocket Lab gets in right before the SpaceX IPO? Yeah. Does it look a little weird that the neo clouds are just flooding into the NASDAQ? Yeah. But it's also like, these are the hot companies. These are the companies that matter. These are the companies that are exciting. These are companies that maybe they don't have profitability yet, but they're expected to have a lot of profitability in the future. So, some people felt like it was just the NASDAQ pumping a bunch of these stocks that are super high beta into the index so that people could get excited about it, which theoretically could be happening. But I also think the NASDAQ 100 is looking at the companies that are going to be the most relevant over the thematics in the next decade, AI and space being one of them, the neo clouds being a huge part of that AI thematic, and saying, wait a second, this is something that we should probably reconsider and we shouldn't be too upset about in terms of that having more allocation in terms of the broader index. So I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense. And now time is just going to tell in terms of how well it gets received. Nebius right there. You got some red candles coming in, but Nebius right there is up about 3.37%. CoreWeave finally broke 100. Now it is below 100, 98.51, kind of been stuck in that 95 to 98 range. Rocket Lab did break out 8% up. Now it's only up 1%. So we do have some red candles coming in, unfortunately. I don't know if we're out of the woods yet in terms of the red, which leads us into the macro conversation about what happened yesterday, even though it's really good that these 5 companies got into the NASDAQ. Yesterday was crazy, and whatever catalyst could help us go green today, based on what happened yesterday, might not allow us to end up going green. And we got to talk about kind of why. So what happened yesterday? Yesterday was a red day for a few hours. Qs just turned red right there. I don't see any headline, by the way, folks, for why we're flipping red. The headline might naturally just be that yesterday's pump is not going to work to get us to the next leg up. We are still down from those 760 highs. But what was yesterday's pump? Well, Trump came out and he officially said that the war is over. He said that we have a memorandum of understanding with the Iranians and that we don't need to stress out anymore about bombing Iran. Remember, in the morning yesterday, we were reporting that Trump himself reported that he was going to take over Karg Island and bomb them. And then in the afternoon, you had a big green candle S&P, 727, all the way up to 737. Why? Because Trump said, based on productive conversations, we don't need to ban them anymore. And as a result of not having to ban them anymore, we will have a deal. So the market immediately was like, okay, we have a deal. We don't need to worry about this anymore. Oil went down 5%. Market shot up. My question here is that enough to get us out of the woods? These kind of, crappy 3 sessions we've had to deal with over the past couple of days. A lot of people not only flipping bearish, but just starting to be more skeptical of the AI trade. Is this actually happening? Is this sustainable? Yada. You start to get all those questions coming back into it. Iran has already rejected a lot of parts of this proposed deal. They did agree last night that there is a memorandum of understanding, some type of a conceptual framework of a deal. We've heard that many times. Is this time actually the time where there is a deal? I don't know. But, you know, at its core, we just are going to have to wait and see in terms of how this ends up playing out. We got news from the FARS agency right here. Iran's FARS, citing source close to negotiation team, reports about signing agreement with the U.S. on Sunday in Geneva are false. This is what I mean. Like, everything Trump said yesterday immediately pumped the markets, immediately tanked oil. But the Iranians didn't fully agree to it. And it's really reminding me of 2 Sundays ago. It was the exact same thing. You had Axios headline Sunday night, futures popped, everyone was excited. And then a week later, you know, we're threatening to take over Kark Island. So it's just one of those things where I'm not sure if the pump is going to be able to pump through the 740s, 750s. Maybe we don't have to go back down to the 720s. We can hold the 730s. Or maybe, you know, pre-markets are just a head fake and we actually flip super green today to end out the Friday. It's just one of those things where if we get more confirmation of this deal happening, which I do feel is closer than not, it kind of felt ridiculous to think we were going to bomb Kark Island. I mean, I don't even think anyone believed it. I know the oil markets didn't believe it because oil didn't even spike when Trump said that. You would think if Trump is going to launch a war to take over 90% of crude oil exports in the region, that oil would spike. And it's like, it didn't. And I think most of the market was like, he's not actually going to do this. They called his bluff. They were right. And if you went long yesterday, you know, you ended up benefiting from that. Here's what Trump had to say about this whole Iran war yesterday.
Very big thing. But we have a signing soon, and the documents are in pretty final shape. So we'll see. We'll see. Very good. Should be done. That should be done pretty quickly. They want it every bit as much as everybody else wants it. And I think a lot of good relationships can ensue from this. I just spoke with the leaders of many of the countries that were mentioned in the release. I just spoke to Bibi. I spoke to the head of great heads of nations, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and others. And we're going to be talking to Turkey, President Erdogan, who's great. And it's really a wonderful thing. With a lot of spirit. Pakistan was fantastic. The Prime Minister and the I call him the general. He's the general. He's a great general. He's so great that he's actually a field marshal, step above. And they're all very happy. The whole Middle East is happy. And long beyond the Middle East, the Strait will open as soon as we have it signed. We've been taking out many ships that nobody knew. Even the fake news didn't know it. But over the last month, we've been taking out ships, big ships, quietly at night. You guys didn't know that. Pretty cool, right? As a captain, he knows about.
So again, Trump is talking about we're going to have a signing, we're going to have a deal. JD Vance is going to be at the signing. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. We're done. Oil obviously went from 90 to 85 yesterday. My question is, who believes this? And put in the chat if you are believing this or not. I want to say I believe this because at some point we're going to get to the end of this and it's almost, you know, we're getting into July in the next couple of weeks. Like, are we really going to have this going throughout the summer? Like, I want to believe it. But then when the Iranians come out and say, we didn't agree to any of this, you start to wonder, like, what exactly is agreed on. Now, if there is a conceptual framework of an understanding, then maybe there is some type of an agreement, even if that agreement isn't etched into stone exactly what's going to happen, which is all the markets need. The markets just need to know, okay, the Iranian delegation officially agrees with this. Trump officially agrees with this. The logistics of how it's going to play out, who knows when that's going to happen. But as long as the Strait opens and as long as the blockade is over and as long as the U.S. gives some sanction relief, then we're good to go. And then hopefully the nuclear thing is resolved. But I don't even think the Strait cares about that. They just care about the Strait of Hormuz being open. So I don't know. But I could see the markets getting dumped today simply based off the idea that there's not enough legitimacy towards these claims. And, you know, maybe that's why we end up going red, which is basically what's happened in the past 3 out of 4 sessions. Like, we had a little bit of a green pop and then maybe it was delayed. Sometimes it happened at 11. Sometimes it happened at 10. Sometimes it happened at 2. But we ended up getting a dump for the majority of this week off of just the market feeling some type of anxiety, whether it was on the AI trade or whether it was on Iran. And looks like it's happening now with Iran. So we're going to see. The SpaceX IPO is also going to be really important, right? Because this whole question about liquidity and how much money is out there to pay for this stuff. I mean, if the IPO is successful, it goes well. Let's say it closes today around 170, 180. and maybe it can hold this valuation for a while. That bear case about, oh, all this money is going to go into SpaceX, like that's probably over with. If the IPO is successful, it's done, and it doesn't take down every single stock 5%, and we can move on from it. But if it doesn't go well, and there's too much volatility and people start dumping it, like does that end up hurting a lot of the other high beta stocks that are out there? I think it's funny because when a stock goes public, it gets put into a different bucket, right? And the question is, what bucket does it get put into? And SpaceX might be put into the high beta bucket. It's obviously going to be put into the space bucket. And a lot of these buckets of stocks, they trade with each other. A lot of times if Nebius is down, CoreWeave is down. A lot of times if Redwire is down, ASTS is down. And so SpaceX, I think, is going to be part of a variety of different buckets given the size and scope of what it is. I mean, theoretically, you could put it in, it's not a Mag 7, but it's basically, up there with the 7 to 8 biggest companies in the world in terms of valuation. So if the Mag 6, the Mag 7, the Mag 8 are down, is SpaceX down? And I think being able to analyze it every day and see how that stock impacts all the other different stocks that are trading in its bucket, is definitely going to be very important as well to kind of see how this ends up playing out. If you did get shares today, there are rules to not sell. So on Robinhood, I think you get banned for like 6 months from IPOs if you flip them on the same day. On Schwab, I think it's the same thing. So theoretically, if you get your shares at 135 and it goes up to 190 and you want to sell, there will be a penalty for that. Granted, I mean, the only other IPO that's going to be really exciting over the next 6 months is Anthropic, if that even happens. So, maybe the profits are worth more than the penalty, but that is something to think about. Oh, it's 30 days on Robinhood. You're right. 30 days on Robinhood. Fidelity 15. Schwab is 6 months, I think, which is a little aggressive on Schwab. Robinhood 30. So honestly, 30. I mean, if there's no major IPOs in the next 30 days and you want to flip it, I mean, unless some crazy, I mean, this is the biggest IPO of the year, I would imagine. So the question then is just, do you want to, let go of those shares? Why wouldn't you buy in Hyperliquid then? Well, that's also a fair point. So Hyperliquid, again, perpetual futures platform. Now, it's not necessarily available in the United States because perps are kind of banned in the US, although that's starting to get resolved. Kalshi just got them approved via the CFTC. But if you look at the perpetual futures on Hyperliquid for SpaceX, they are already implying an open at a much higher level. So let's go to the website right now. If we go to SpaceX, they are implying 172. Now, this was actually 208 3 weeks ago. So it's gone down a lot from there, but it's obviously up a lot from 135 on the IPO. 172, you can see a bunch of orders in real time getting put in. So this is not actually SpaceX stock, what you're looking at right here. This is a perpetual futures contract, which is giving you hypothetical exposure to SpaceX stock. And this is part of the way that a lot of these illiquid assets have started to become liquidly priced, hence the name Hyperliquid. So we're going to see, folks. We're going to see what ends up happening. It's going to be very, very exciting, but it's also going to be a really, really important IPO for the chances of the broader markets. Let's do the pump or dump right here on SpaceX itself. I think this thing is going to pump, dude. I think it's kind of guaranteed to pump, at least today. The question is, over the long term, will it end up continuing to pump? So yesterday, Trump said we're done with Iran. Markets ended up pumping. Had a relatively strong green day. And we got the NASDAQ conclusion after the bell. That was also really important for a lot of these different stocks, Rocket Lab, Nebius, CoreWeave, etc. The question is today, does the market respect any of that pump? And theoretically, we've respected a decent chunk of it, given we're 10 points higher than where we were last night. But it is a Friday. You have a lot of options volatility. Obviously, you have the SpaceX IPO. And I think a lot needs to go into kind of figuring out if that is officially going to be the case. By the way, Wolf Research already started an outperform target on SpaceX. So you're starting to get the sell side come in. They have a $175 price target. A lot of these sell side firms are going to come up with as many different ways as they can to make sense of this. And, it's a lot of word salad. But at the end of the day, I think the core argument they're making is, look, it's an N of one company. It's hard to just look at the pure numbers to value this, which they're right about. It is hard to look at the pure numbers to value this. I mean, if Tesla can hold a 300 PE, I would imagine SpaceX is probably able to hold a pretty oversized valuation for a long time, even if it's not, 3 trillion. And if that is the case, then maybe it's not, it's not going to be slowing down anytime soon. A couple of other updates. So yesterday we had a lot of conversation around OpenAI and cutting their cost of tokens. Here is what the Cisco chief product officer had to say about the cost of tokens, where it's going, and how people should be thinking about it in the enterprise.
I think like America needs to have a very strong open source strategy. And in the absence of that, even if there's no technical limitation of using a KME model within your environment, I think there's going to be a certain level of restrictions, and you need to have a good, strong investment in open source in addition to proprietary models that are out there. And I think NVIDIA is doing a good job right now with NeMo and the entire kind of portfolio that they're investing in. And by the way, in the past like 96 hours, a lot happened in that entire domain. So like new image model came out, new video model came out, new language models came out. I do think that that's going to be a self-propelling thing because there's going to be enough demand signal there. Right now what's happening is the costs of tokens are far higher than the actual value that these tokens are generating at scale. And so what ends up happening, the big risk in the market is if you don't create an equilibrium there, then people just pull back on using tokens, and that's actually not good for anyone.
So I thought that point was really important. Basically saying there's a lot of demand for tokens, but not enough demand to justify unlimited pricing because you're not seeing the ROI yet. A lot of conversation yesterday about Anthropic and OpenAI slashing their prices on tokens. I think the conclusion is pretty obvious that you're going to have a massive more amount of usage with lower cost of tokens. Lower cost of tokens is actually good because it accelerates the entire ecosystem. The question is the unit economics and profitability on these model companies, which is yet to be known. And that is a question for when they go public and we're going to be able to see their financials. But the broader narrative has shifted from just token maxing to profitable expenditure of tokens. And I think that's an important update in this broader AI trade because it matters for the ability for the neoclouds to become more efficient, for the picks and shovels to continue to have their gross margins, their pricing power, obviously for NVIDIA, which wants to keep selling these GPUs. NVIDIA right here, pre-markets 204. That one continues to be a bit red. Obviously matters for the Microsofts and the Metas of the world, the Amazons, Googles, which Microsoft's still below 400 right there at 392, bottomed at 388 yesterday. Meta got all the way to 559, now at 572. But token cost is something we got to keep our eyes on. And obviously the software companies should be able to benefit as token costs go lower, but the model companies themselves have to play a role in making the models so much better that if they do upcharge for the tokens, people are willing to pay because they actually see the ROI. And, once again, I think the orchestration of the tokens, as Karp has been saying, is going to be a lot more relevant than the tokens themselves, especially if the tokens start to replicate each other in different avenues. Like Fable 5 is cool right now, but what happens when the next model is just as good? And like, when you have that type of a snowball effect, when this model can get just as good as this model, then there's no moat. There's a lot of growth, a lot of revenue, but there's no profits. I think over time there might be, but the beneficiaries should end up being the picks and shovels, which still end up, selling all the hardware to make the tokens get generated, and then the software companies that actually orchestrate how those tokens deliver value in the enterprise. Micron right there, that's down about 2.65%. Palantir's up about 0.17%. Virgin Galactic was up 30% yesterday. Now it's down 11%. I think this one will be a space trade today. So, it might be one that people start to trade thinking it's SpaceX. SanDisk, this one, massive day yesterday, up 14%, down about 0.45. It looks like it has a date with 2,000. Micron looks like it's easily getting back to 1,000. Then Oracle, relatively flat in the pre-market after going down 8.5% yesterday. Okay, Adobe. Why is this one tanking? So Adobe's numbers were pretty good from everything I saw. The problem is the street didn't think so. Take a look at all the street analysts today. They all lowered their price target. When I mean all of them, look at this. Bernstein, JP Morgan, RBC, Wells Fargo, Barclays, Mizuho, TD Cohen, Barr, Jefferies. You would think all of them are in a group chat and all of them are just like, so we're going to lower them, right? And everyone's like, yeah, we're going to lower them. I mean, I have never seen I've never seen this unilaterally. 17 out of 17 analysts say, yeah, this stock should be lower. It's unbelievable. I'm pretty sure this has happened before. I just don't think I've ever seen it happen where all the especially on a company like Adobe's a blue chip stock. It's not some random stock, right? Got 17 out of 17 analysts saying we have to lower our price targets here. And as you can see right here on the screen, it's basically by an average of 15 to 20%. So why did that happen? I think there's two reasons. One is more speculative, one is more legit. The first reason that I think is more legit is the CFO is leaving. Now, the CEO just left, so that was annoying for Adobe. The CFO is leaving. Where is the CFO going? Marvell. Dan Durn, who was the former Adobe CFO as of yesterday, is now going to Marvell. So I think bro just realized, I should go to the company that Jensen says is going to $1 trillion. And, maybe that was part of the reason why Adobe got hit yesterday. The other reason is because the growth is once again not exciting. EPS, revenue, the guide all beat, RPO beat, but they beat by levels that are like 3%, 2%, 4% at best. Like you're not seeing these explosive beats of 40%, 50%. You're not seeing top line revenue growth of even 15%, 18%. Like, and if you are, it's just so minimal in regards to how the street is thinking of the trajectory of how that growth can continue to compound. Where I think, if you're an institutional investor, you're looking at Adobe, you're like, okay, AI might kill them. Figma might kill them. Canva might kill them. Not kill in a realistic respect, but just kill their future TAM prospects of growth or make it incredibly harder for them to continue propelling. They haven't showed us, it's been 4 years, a real AI strategy outside of Firefly and typing in girl on a cake and then a girl on a cake pops up. Like, what is the real strategy there? Micron's trading at 10 times forward. Meta is trading at 14 times forward. Microsoft, 20 times. I mean, like if you're a software investor or an institutional investor, you kind of look at the entire market and say, a lot of stuff is cheap. Why do I need to pick the bottom of the barrel that's cheap when the narrative on it is horrible, right? And so, I mean, this thing is now approaching basically prices that we haven't seen from 2018. It really looks like PayPal's chart. 700 is where it peaked in 2021. That's why, when people say 2026 is a bubble, it's like 2021 Adobe was $700. Like I have not seen in a large cap tech stock something that ridiculous. I've seen all these, small little penny stocks go to the moon, and that's reminiscent of 2021. But a large cap tech, as a blue chip company being that overvalued, that expensive, I mean, we just haven't seen that in 2026 as easily. So it's not to hate on Adobe, man. I think the numbers were good. I think they did what they had to do. They just didn't do it at the level that the street wanted. Even ServiceNow is still growing 20%, right? Like they're still compounding at an aggressive level compared to Adobe. And then when you have two major C-suites leave, it's hard for people to be super excited. So, yeah, it's one of those names that's very widely owned. I really wonder what the volatility is going to look like today if people just come in, because that's what gives it that blue chip status. But obviously, price performance has been pretty tough this year. And in a world in which so many names have so much more potential, so much more excitement, I think that's what's causing some pain right here for Adobe. UNH, that's up a little bit in the pre-market. Again, SpaceX will start trading at around 10 a.m. So we got about an hour until it goes live, but we're going to have coverage as soon as it goes live, and we're not going to have to wait till 1 p.m. and we'll see what SpaceX ends up IPOing at. Qualcomm right there at 201. This is Burry's top choice. That is correct. Burry put out a note yesterday on his Substack. 72% of you guys, by the way, say SpaceX will pump. And he said he's buying more. I can't blame anyone for buying more. Like, it's cheap, and it just got a lot cheaper on relatively decent results. It's just, the cheap can get cheaper sometimes. We saw this story. A lot of us experienced it with PayPal, and be stuck. Whereas not cheap names, if we're talking about the stock going up, might have a better shot, of going higher. But that is what you have with Adobe. Okay, some other macro updates that we got. So we talked about NASDAQ. We talked about the new 5 companies getting included into it. Iran's news agency, the draft agreement has not yet received final approval. According to informed sources, the U.S. dropped its push for changes to Iran's 14-point response after military and diplomatic pressure failed. Iran rejected the latest proposed changes. Until that process is complete, other reports and speculation should be treated with caution. So again, market's not tanking on Iran kind of rejecting the claims from Trump that there is a deal, but they're definitely not excited that that deal is legit yet, because obviously, we don't fully know if it is legit. Sam Bankman-Fried loses bid to overturn fraud conviction in 25-year prison sentence. Huh. Okay, so it looks like he might continue, at least for now, to stay in jail, and you can, apply for the pardon many times. I don't know if that means his pardon got completely overturned or his bid going back to the judge got overturned. We'll get some updates on that, but I would imagine he will continue to apply, at least while Trump is in office. But that is one of the updates you have on Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried. Iran just now, 9:14, says the memorandum of understanding with the U.S. is under internal review. Okay, so again, conflicting narratives here in terms of what they are saying and not saying, but the fact that they're at least agreeing that there is a conceptual framework, hopefully might be enough for the markets to be happier about this. Nokia upgrade this morning from JP Morgan to $21. That stock right there up 1.7%. Again, a lot of these names got hit pretty bad. I think the most interesting thing about what's happened over the past couple of days in terms of the downside momentum is so many of these names just got chopped, like completely destroyed. And they're not all the way back, but you can see like those are the dips and then they revert back. The problem is, even on the dips, they're still relatively expensive from the parabolic moves that they already had. And so you have people that are still scared to touch it. And you need a market moving catalyst to really get it out of its funk, which was the Trump-Iran pump last night. If that fades away, then, could Nokia fall back to 13? Could Micron fall back to 850? Yeah. But if it doesn't, then I guess that's enough of a pump to keep it going. And right now, I just think we're in a weird spot where we just don't know, like, what exactly is going to be enough to keep the pump officially holding on at these levels. Okay, here's a question for everybody. Who is buying the SpaceX IPO when it goes live? Let me do a poll on that. So not did you get an allocation of shares, but whatever price it comes out at, are you buying the IPO itself? I think it's obviously a little risky, to say the least, especially if it gets a massive pump. Like if it opens at 170, you got to be buying it, assuming it's going to like 200, 190. But what if 170 is where it, tops out at for the day? And then my prediction is it closes around 180, 190. Maybe that's too conservative. Maybe that's too optimistic, but we're going to have to see ultimately the market prices it.
Bankers here at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs and the other book runners are calling hundreds of investors and letting them know how much stock they'll receive out of what they requested. This process started last night. It continues into the morning until all of the orders are confirmed. It's a bullish sign for investors to receive these calls and be told that they're only getting a fraction of the shares that they had requested. This process, that's why many investors tend to inflate their indications of interest because they expect to get cut back. So even though I'm told this deal was 5 times oversubscribed, the actual demand will kind of be determined from this process. Advisors will get a clearer picture of demand once they get through these phone calls. But SpaceX won't start trading as soon as the so-called syndicate is broken. It will take hours and hours, and that's really where the stabilization agent comes in. In this case, it's Morgan Stanley. A key part of that job is making the market for SpaceX stock, pulling in the buy and the sell orders and studying them to determine what price it should open. If it opens too low, the stock could overshoot. If it opens too high and there's not enough support, it could fall. So the goal is to open with as little volatility as possible. Morgan Stanley.
Oh, this is interesting. That means the first trade might not be at 10 a.m., folks. That was reported in the morning. They're saying after lunch, the first trade is expected. I saw something different this morning on SpaceX. IPO of SpaceX to be eligible for trading at 10 a.m. Eastern. The quote's coming out at 9:50. The NASDAQ opening window is set for 9:50 a.m., et cetera. That's ET. That's when indications for SpaceX's opening price should start to appear. Okay, that is a little confusing. It might go live a lot later. Okay, so for those that are expecting it to get an open at the morning, we might not see that. Let's see. At 10 a.m., we'll see. If not, then obviously it'll happen later in the day.
So the goal is to open with as little volatility as possible. Morgan Stanley traders here will be looking, essentially for enough volume to feel comfortable opening SpaceX shares, and that can take hours. So we'll probably not see a first trade until after lunchtime, guys.
Okay, if that's true, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave at 11 and I'll be back at 12:30, and I'll probably just be back with Steve at 12:30 and we'll both cover the IPO at the same time, because that would make a lot more sense than just staying through the whole thing. So that'll basically be the market close, getting ready for the SpaceX IPO. thought in the morning they were gonna give it to us at 10, but it makes sense. There's gonna be so many quotes going back and forth. It's probably gonna be hard for them to have that first share trade at 10 a.m. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll have a regular market open. We'll end it at 11 like usual. I'll probably be back by like 12:30, 12:45 with Steve. And then by 1 o'clock, we should get that first IPO share trading. And then we'll analyze where it goes. Hopefully we get some data around 10, but yeah, if you are joining expecting to see the stock trade at 10, I thought it would in the morning, but usually IPOs don't do that. So it actually makes sense for it to happen after lunch. And then we'll get a better understanding of it. S&P 500 right there up about 0.32% as well on the day. Are people excited? Are people excited for it? I mean, I get that the valuation's up there and it's aggressive, but still it just feels like a cool day to be covering markets, caring about technology. Elon's going to be a trillionaire. That's going to be wild, bro. A trillionaire. Yeah, 11 Central, exactly. 11:30 Central, basically around the time. I'm excited for it to dump. I don't think it dumps today. I think every stock will have pullbacks. I mean, IPOs have been pretty brutal in terms of the amount of pullbacks they've had. Uber's IPO, Facebook's IPO, like IPOs in general, they take time. Palantir's IPO, a lot, or DPO. A lot of these things take a while. But I don't think today is when you get the dump. However, part of the reason we might have seen some of the dump in the markets, let's take a look at some macro data, is investors have been taking profits. So this is according to Bank of America's equity data. Investors sold $14 billion in U.S. equities last week, largely driven by single stocks. $14.2 billion in pure outflows of single stocks. This is the largest weekly withdrawal in data going back to 2008. Equity ETFs had $300 million of inflows. Technology stocks had $10.8 billion of outflows. As a percentage of the S&P 500's tech sector market cap, this was the largest sale since 2014. Now, this makes sense. You obviously had the S&P take a pretty big breather. Bank of America did come out 2 days ago and say, we think every signal to sell has been reached and it's time to take profits. Now, they do have a $7,100 target. We were pretty close to getting there yesterday. Then Trump came in and kind of saved the pump. So, yeah, I think people taking profits is people taking profits. Honestly, the other thing about this whole profit-taking thing that we've had over the past couple of days is I would feel much more weird if the S&P was pushing 8,000 right now. Like, you just want this thing to not go vertically up. You want it to take stair steps. And in those stair steps, you have to have a little bit of a decline here and there, 4 or 5% pullbacks, which is basically what we got, a 5% pullback. It's just our president really hates any pullback. And so he tries to make sure to not experience pullbacks. And I think that's why he did what he did yesterday, to make sure it wouldn't be that bad. There was I don't know if people heard this part, but he literally mentioned the stock market right at this point after he announced the deal.
Documents we should get done over the next few days. Probably have a signing maybe in Europe. And it's a great thing. Stock market's up 1,000 points. That means they like the deal. See, that means if the market goes down, that means they don't like the deal. But it's been up, oil's dropped.
Trump was excited. Elon is live right now at the bell.
Well, thank you, Gwen. Gwen Shawwell's been an incredible partner and was one of the first people to join the company. And so thank you, Gwen. Oh, she's in New York, of course. Where is she? Yeah, it is certainly hard to believe that a little company that started in a warehouse in El Segundo is now going public with the largest IPO that ever. And let me tell you, if people had told me this was going to happen I was like, man, you must be smoking some really good crack. Because I think this company's going to fail. I mean, I gave SpaceX less than a 10% chance of succeeding at all, to be clear. In fact, I told people this. I said, look, we're probably going to fail, but we should give it a try, because if we don't, if there's not a new company that enters space, we will never be a truly spacefaring civilization. While the other aerospace companies, they build good rockets and everything, they were simply not pursuing the technology that's necessary to make life multiplanetary, to make Star Trek, to make the exciting science fiction futures that we've read about real. And that's what SpaceX is all about. It's to take the fiction out of science fiction and create an exciting, inspiring future for everyone. We want to be able to take anyone who wants to go to the moon, anyone who wants to go to Mars, or anywhere in the solar system, and maybe beyond the solar system at some point. We want to be able to take you there. Not just a few astronauts. I mean, you, literally you. If you watch, whoever you are watching this, SpaceX wants to be able to take you to the moon, take you to Mars, and ultimately beyond. And I'm confident at this point that with the incredible team that we have here at SpaceX, that we will do that for you. I always think about this, that there are always problems on Earth. There are always problems on Earth. There are always things that we wish to be better, that we want to solve here on Earth, and we should solve them. But there also have to be things that get you excited about the future, that make you glad to wake up in the morning, because you can't wait to see what happens next. And that's the future that SpaceX wants to bring to you. Yeah.
All right, there we go. It's going to be a historic day. Ladies and gentlemen, the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. We've got a bit of red. The Qs open up down 0.18 bips. Adobe, at least back above 700, but that's down 7.5%. ServiceNow, that's down a little bit. Rocket Lab loses a majority of the pump last night from the NASDAQ 100. That is down. Nebius as well, losing some of that pump. Still up 3%, but down from about 235 to 230. Robinhood, 93.30. Robinhood has been a champ over the past couple weeks. Again, I think that insider buying is really getting the street excited. 93.35. Also, I mean, SpaceX IPO bullish for Robinhood. There's going to be a lot of trading on Robinhood. That could lead to a lot more momentum as well. Triple digits just doesn't seem that far away if the street can kind of get behind agentic trading and a lot of these other tailwinds. Palantir, that's down 1%. Redwire, that's down 8%. Wow. Micron down 2%. Whoa, you've got a real divergence, folks, with some of these high beta names. Some of them are pumping like a Robinhood, and then some of them are just getting dumped, like a Redwire, a Micron right here. Reddit's down about 1%. Corning's down 1%. Cerebras down 1%. Shopify down 0.5%. Microsoft back to 387. Goodness gracious, this one cannot catch a break. SMCI, that's down 7% at the open. NVIDIA down 0.5%. S&P somehow holding on to some green, 739.44. Holding on to a little bit of it. SoFi getting a small pump right there, up 1%. So your fintechs, Hood and SoFi, not looking horrible. Meta's up a little bit. Where's the Googs? That was at 358 yesterday, 363. So Google moving on which is nice. Microsoft, again, still kind of dead. Tesla right here, 398. That's basically flat. Again, we'll get first quotes for SpaceX, I think, at 950. Bloomberg right now reporting it's unlikely they will actually trade at that time. So the trading likely will happen after lunch. We'll be back after lunch, and we'll take a look at some of those shares, but we should get a quote at 950. BlackBerry, that's up a little bit. Applied Digital, that's up a little bit. Virgin Galactic Space is dumpy dump, 22% down. People might be selling it to actually buy regular SpaceX or realizing it's not SpaceX, but that one is down. Google 363, Tesla 400, got a bit of a break. Software is still down, tech still down, semis selectively down. Your neoclouds, you know, you got a little bit of a move right there. Core even Nebius. Nebius, much bigger move from last night. It was at 204, now 230. Robinhood getting rejected at 93. Broadcom below 380 again. Iran is up. So that's moving with some of the other neoclouds that you have. We have Fox News right now from a White House official on the Iran deal. 5 things. Nuclear material will be destroyed. Nuclear program will be dismantled. None of their money released until they perform these actions. Strait of Hormuz will be reopened, and Iran will not be able to fund terrorist groups. The White House official says this is what they agreed to. This is a performance-based deal. If that is accurate, then Iran will have to perform those actions to get the relief, particularly from the sanctions that they are looking for. SoFi just went red. PayPal went red. ServiceNow, wow, below 100. Adobe below 200. A lot of names going red, even though some of these names holding on to that green. But that is the update around Iran. Goodness, Rocket Lab, dude. Even after the NASDAQ news, 5% down. I mean, that's a, I mean, unless this reverses, this was a big sell the news. You would think the NASDAQ inclusion would be more respected, and completely getting sold off right here. Kind of weird, the space trade going south. ASTS, 5% down. Redwire, 7% down. Where's Lunar? Lunar, 8% down. All the space names, maybe they're going to perk back up when SpaceX actually goes public. But that space algo going into effect to the downside right there. Broadcom down 1.4. Palantir getting whacked 128. That's, you know, 127-ish has been support this week. So hopefully we don't break that. Oracle getting hit, Salesforce getting hit, Marvell getting hit, ASML getting hit, Amcord, that's down, IGV, that's down 2%, Qualcomm up a little bit, Intel up a little bit. Intel had some good deals yesterday, and then ARM up 6%. Just a weird day. Weird open. Amazon down 2%. All your Mag 7s besides Google are down. Tesla's up a little bit. Google's also barely up, to be honest. Your fintechs were green. Now they're red. Hood just lost it. SoFi just lost it. Your neoclouds are kind of green. The Qs are down. S&P looks like it's ready to go red pretty soon. Some of your semis are up, like ARM and AMD. The other semis are down. AMD back above 500. Yields are up. Are they? The 10-year is at 4.48. So that is around 4.5. That's up. Yeah, maybe rebalance today. That could be part of the thing that's happening as well. But this is definitely divergent from a lot of different levels. KLAC, is that getting hit? KLAC, they did a split, right? I think they did do a split recently. That's up for the week, but down on the day. Interesting. Okay, AMD, I think that's your kind of core semi that's getting some love today. Dude, AMD fell to 437 at one point this week. ARM is up, AMD is up, Intel's up a little bit, and that's it. SMCI is down, NVIDIA is down, Broadcom's down, TSM, Dell, Micron, Lam Research, Marvell. They are all down right here. ServiceNow losing a hundo. I mean, look, Adobe earnings, they were good for Adobe, but the price action is not good for the rest of the SaaS names. Adobe now losing 200. Is anyone buying the Adobe dip at all? Or are people just letting this one kind of chill out? Microsoft, yes, getting destroyed. Keel, how's that one doing? That's up today, 6%. So your neoclouds not getting hit too hard. Cypher, that's also up 7.68%. It's interesting. It's like the neoclouds are up, the space names are down. Technically, SpaceX is a neocloud, so maybe some of the bullish neocloud momentum is going to be in the same bucket as SpaceX. But your software names and your semis are down. UNH, that's up Figma, that should be down if Adobe's down. Figma, 18. Goodness. This thing was at 27 2 weeks ago. That's down 6.3%. I think people are really selling to buy SpaceX. Dude, if that's what's going to happen, then I guess we're going to see the impact of that today. You know, I think it's 4,400 people are going to become millionaires inside of SpaceX. So it's definitely going to be a massive liquidity event for a lot of people that have been there for a long time. And they deserve it. You know, they were at the company when no one believed that the company had a chance of winning. Broadcom right there, 383. But the question is, are they going to take that money and then are they going to buy some undervalued tech stocks in the stock market and kind of divert those funds, which theoretically could be a tailwind. Salesforce, 162. This thing was pushing 205 a couple weeks ago as well. Let's see if Elon is back. Again, we should be getting an update soon on the first share. Guys, I don't know at this point if SpaceX is going to trade at 10 a.m. or not. I'm getting conflicting sources. Like CNBC right now says we're awaiting SpaceX's first trade, which I'm assuming they think is going to happen very soon. But then you have other people saying it's lunch. So we've got to see. I think Elon is ringing the bell. Let me pull this up here.
You know who it's going to be good for? Potentially our VCs, Jim. The windfalls for Sequoia, Horowitz, founders. In some cases, these will be the biggest payoff on any bet they've ever made.
It occurs to me, Carl, someone who is involved politically said to me, you know.
Okay, Elon is not ringing the bell right there. I think he will be interviewed and kind of do more media, so we're going to see. But I'm just curious at this point, are we actually going to get a real trade or a quote? Well, you know what? We might get a quote, as in we might get the opening bids, but we might not get a trade, which means we'll be able to see what it theoretically should open at. But that doesn't mean we might actually see it go live and start trading. But at least that would give us some understanding of it. Reddit, that's down 5. All your software names getting it. Yeah, he does have the Jensen Huang jacket. Dude, in one of his interviews he did 2 days ago, he was wearing a leather jacket. I think Elon's tapping into that inner Jensen right there. But he's been wearing it more often. Shopify wrecked. That's down 2%. Where's the other SaaS names? All of them red. Wow. Snowflake, Datadog, Palantir, Team, Mongo, Adobe, ServiceNow, CrowdStrike, Cloudflare, Intuit, Twilio. None of them. But all the semis are red as well. There's a couple semis that are green, like an AMD and an Intel. NVIDIA just flipped green by about 50 cents. But the rest is still pretty red. The rest is still pretty red. SanDisk, are we at all-time highs? Yes, we are at all-time highs. 1950 on Mr. SanDisk. That's up 3.49%. Interesting that that's pumping, but Micron is not. Micron 977. Still red on the day, but SanDisk, which was at 1,000 just a couple of weeks ago, continues to be green. Adobe, down 7%. ServiceNow, down 3.8%. Redwire, again, this one just getting destroyed. A lot of these space names, a lot of them getting, I guess, sold off before this IPO. Bitcoin also getting sold off right here. Yesterday's pump was a nice pump in the middle of the day, but it also felt like a manufactured pump. And until this market fully feels that it's real, I don't know how green we will be able to be. Trump just put out a quote. Do we have a Truth Social post right here? Let me see. Yes, Trump. Okay, 56 seconds ago. The terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news media have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. With them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together and fast. Okay, see, this is why, this is why every day, I shared this yesterday, but I don't have to share this again. This is why every single day, back and forth. Yesterday, Trump said, we're going to sign a deal. We're chill. Everything's good. Today, he's saying this is totally unacceptable. We can't believe they're leaking this stuff to the media. This is why trading in 2026 with Trump tweets has felt like this. That's it. That's been 2026 in a nutshell. That's what it's been. I mean, this tweet is so confusing. Why? Like, he's like really going at it at Iran and like criticizing them. And then yesterday it was like, yeah, we're all good. We have a memorandum of understanding. We're ready to sign the deal. You know, this is also probably why I think we're getting some more volatility in these high beta names today, is because, again, they don't know if they can really trust what Trump said yesterday. S&P just went red. S&P officially goes red on the day. We were at 741 in the pre-markets, folks. 742.50. 735 now. So that just flipped completely as we're down. SpaceX IPO, this is from Bloomberg, set to draw over 250 billion institutional orders. Wow. They're trying to raise 80 billion. That's only institutional. If you put another 100 billion of retail there, that might get to about 5x oversubscribed, 4 to 5x oversubscribed, which means that opening price, maybe you see it at 170, 180. ServiceNow getting dumped 4%. Rocket Lab completely even after the NASDAQ news getting hit. ASTS, yeah, that one's getting wrecked. 10% down there on the day. The Virgin Galactic stock, that's down 23%. Palantir, we really got to hold 125 on Palantir, folks. 127. If we lose that, 125 is left. And then after 125, it's 120. After 120, I don't know what happens. So I would imagine you hopefully have some support there. Same thing with ServiceNow. 90 is what ServiceNow has to hold. Otherwise, you know, that one can get really ugly. Meta, 567. Microsoft, 383. I think this is worse than yesterday on Microsoft, is it? No, Microsoft yesterday hit 382.50. We're at 382.95, which means the Trump pump got it up to 392, and now we're right back down to 382. It is very reminiscent of 2022. I'm not going to lie. Price action. The earnings story, the AI story, the tailwinds, the catalyst, those are all fundamentally different. But this week has been one of the first weeks where it actually feels like false hopes every time you have a catalyst and then gets rejected, and then you take out prior lows and you make lower lows, and then you start to wonder, is it okay to buy the pump? And then you buy the pump, you take a risk, and then it gets dumped again. You know, and it creates that sort of vertigo, and you're just stuck. And obviously, if it stretches for a long period of time, it just feels like a crappy market to navigate every day, which is basically what it felt like in February, March. But we had a catalyst, we had an Iran war. And then in April, May, that changed. It was just up and up and up and up to the right. So maybe this type of week is needed given how parabolic April and May were. But nonetheless, you know, it does feel like that a bit. Rocket Lab still getting hit right here. Again, we should get the first price in about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe a little quicker than that, on what this should trade at, even if we don't actually see it officially getting traded. It seems like there's going to be a lot of orders that come in. As those orders come in, you're going to have a lot of market makers, a lot of underwriters trying to effectively price what they think should be the interest. And then we're going to find out what SpaceX will trade at.
To SpaceX on this Friday, the listing is a major win.
I am still seeing President Gwen Shotwell behind me, along with CFO Brent Johnson, celebrating along with Adina Friedman. And outside, I can tell you, even from here at the booth in the NASDAQ, I look outside and there are huge crowds forming of people wanting to get a slice, wanting to get a glimpse of history unfolding, David. And I will say what we know from the NASDAQ is that SpaceX will be eligible for trading at 10 a.m. Eastern, though we will see if we get a first trade soon after then.
14 minutes from now, Vonnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we might get a trade, we might not. At this point, I don't know, but we'll be live for now to see if this one ends up happening, and hopefully we do get those first. I mean, maybe the market makers can price it pretty quickly and immediately get it trading. I mean, theoretically, if you have that much demand coming in all at once, do you really need to wait a few hours to figure out what the appropriate price is, or do you just let it go And so we should hopefully know soon, but we might not. Bloomberg, SpaceX IPO set to draw over 250 billion institutional orders, more than 350 billion in total demand. SpaceX will sell 70% of institutional book to long-only institutions, 20% of IPO shares to retail investors. So it looks like SpaceX is willing to give 70% of that 350 billion to institutional investors that don't go short. Essentially, they're long only, so they're not necessarily traditional hedge funds that go long and short. And then obviously 20% to the diamond hands of retail investors. Demi says I got 11 allocated from Schwab. Bonick says I got 14 shares. Ari Investor, thanks for the super chat. I just got 17 shares of SpaceX. Congrats. Yeah, I was happy they gave my dad 14 because my dad gets so excited when this type of stuff happens. It's like when he called me, he's like, I got 14. I could just hear the excitement in his voice. Now, he's probably excited more because he knows this thing's going to open and he's going to make money. I don't think my dad even knows what SpaceX does. I don't think he gives a shit, to be honest. I think he's just like super excited to know that he's going to get it at 135. It's going to open at like 190 or whatever. But I was really happy that he was excited for it because, you know, he just recently got into the markets over the past couple of years. So he's definitely been enjoying the process of markets, but he's also, you know, you get in some names, they go down. Like it's humbling the markets in so many different ways. So it's nice to always get a win. And SpaceX might be an easy win for a lot of people. But then again, because we think it could be an easy win, what if it's not? What if this thing opens at 180 and then a week later it's dumping at 130? I mean, just if the reality of the valuation catches up to it, which I think the valuation is unsustainable. I mean, I think it's sustainable theoretically, but I think when you look at the numbers, if NVIDIA and Meta and Microsoft can't catch a bid, I don't know why SpaceX would catch a bid outside of investors fully believing in the story. But the story of a lot of these names are really good. The story of Microsoft, story of NVIDIA, these are really good stories. They still end up getting done. I think Amazon is one of the best stories when it comes to AI. It's tough sometimes in the public markets when algorithms, you know, really have to navigate how to treat the stock. A couple of people saying they got 100 shares, which is not too bad. I got 1 share for those that are asking. That 1 share will just stay there. But I think a lot of people on Robinhood got 1 share. Someone said I got 180 out of 10,000 requested. I got 300 requested, 200. Okay, it's a decent amount of people got at least 100 shares, which is, you know, not horrible. That means 13,500. Maybe it opens up at 180, 190. ASML, that's down 2.4. Uber down 1.8. Microsoft, goodness gracious, 383. Here's the question on Microsoft. It's obviously, in my opinion, an attractive valuation, attractive entry. The question is, if they do the dilution, does it get even more attractive? And quite frankly, do you kind of just bite the bullet and say, look, if they dilute and it goes to 370, I buy more? Is that kind of the simple narrative you have to have when it comes to Microsoft? Because I think that's part of the reason that's holding the stock down. The street knows that's inevitably coming. Also, this whole, you know, IGV drama. Microsoft is a top holding in IGV, and software once again getting hit. 382.70 on it. Bloomberg, SpaceX shares indicated to open at 171 in NASDAQ debut versus the IPO price of 135. Okay, 171. Wait, what valuation does that put it at? Hold on. 171. That would be 2.15 trillion. 2.15 trillion. 2.15 to 2.2 trillion. Goodness, bro. I mean, that would be more than Meta. Meta's at 1.4. That would be, where's Microsoft? Microsoft's at 2.8. That is going to be 78% of Microsoft's market cap. Oh my goodness, dude. Again, it's going to be exciting, but man, this is obviously going to be an aggressive valuation when you look at Meta's and Microsoft's financials. But then again, you look at SpaceX's story of growth, trajectory of growth. It's a lot more exciting than advertising, and it's a lot more exciting than Copilot. Like, if we're going to be honest, that's part of the reason. Well, I guess that premium. Yeah, Amazon's at 2.3. That means SpaceX will be valued, or Amazon's at 2.5. So SpaceX will be basically 90%, 85% of Amazon's valuation. Amazon taking another dump here, down 3%, 234. Well, we should hopefully find out soon. Okay, it is 950. I think that's the quote. I think that actually is the quote headline right there. Let me see if I can confirm that. If that is the quote headline, then I don't think we're going to see a trade yet. SPCX. So it still says 135 on Webull. Then again, CNBC is saying we're waiting their first trade, so it does feel like maybe this trade is happening. Let's go to this. Let's see if we can get some coverage on if this is happening.
Yeah, no one's talking
about becoming profitable.
Yeah, no, they're not. But Anthropic, other than scaring us, they should also be talking about how profitable they are.
I mean, it won't be that long, many months before we're sitting here talking about Anthropic's IPO is my guess.
I think 3 months max.
Yeah, I'm certainly hearing the fall. Let's call it that.
Everyone.
Of the day, the 2-year yield at 409. The VIX is trading back above 19.
Wait for
the attack, apparently a drone attack on an
doing business so they can get some Anthropic.
Should they be selling, getting ready for
First indications now that NASDAQ window is open about where SpaceX will trade. Currently, that first indication coming in at $174 a share. That would imply about a 29% jump from the IPO price of $135 per share. So we'll continue to keep an eye out. This is just the first indication. It's a very long process. We have several hours likely to go before this stock officially opens. But at least in terms of early indications of the supply and demand dynamic that we were describing earlier, 174 is the first indication we have gotten. Guys, back to you.
That's going to be tight. You want that.
Okay, so it is not trading yet, folks. It is not trading yet. As she said, it will take several hours. So if you go to your brokerage, unfortunately, it is not live yet. I know that's what everyone's excited for, but I wish they could have made it live early in the morning. That would have been really fun, but that's usually just not what happens on an IPO. But that's your quote, 171. I mean, we'll see at 10 a.m. if it actually gets the trade. But if what she's saying is correct and it's going to take many hours, then we're not going to have it for a while. Rocket Lab getting dumped. Palantir getting dumped. ASTS getting dumped. SPY getting dumped. SpaceX is the only thing pumping. Oil, where's oil? Are we still at 85? Oil's up a little bit, 87. That's not at the very lows. Oil up. High beta down. Nebius and CoreWeave losing a lot of their pump from the highs, but they are still green on the day. Are you shorting it a bit? No. Who's shorting the space? Like, today is not the day to short the SpaceX IPO. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe at 171 it's unsustainable and it's going to come back down to like 140. I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that thing if it just rips your face off. So yeah, I don't know if... Also, I don't even know if shares will be available to borrow to short today. I mean, they might be. But I think this is one of those days you let it ride out. Now, granted, you might have some people that call BS on it and short it immediately and try to see if it goes down. But if you have overwhelming amounts of demand, maybe that breaks through. Adobe, 199. Is the meta dilution still a rumor? It is still a rumor. It is not confirmed. But it's the street's acting like it is confirmed. Mercado Libre, that's down 2.4. Yeah, guys, pretty much everything going red. SanDisk is the only thing in the semis, along with AMD, that's really holding on right here. Keel's up 6.5. Adobe's down 8. TSM's down. If SpaceX is going to open at 170, that's 30% above the IPO price. That'll be about 2.5 or 2.3 trillion. And I guess that will be the story compared to all the other stocks. Yeah, ARM as well. ARM doing okay. Cerebras, where's that one? Cerebras, wow. Cerebras was 240 this week, 230 to 211 this morning. So that one's down. ARM is holding on. ARM is down, though, from the 400s, right? So a lot of these names still down a lot from their lows or from their highs. Intel 120. Intel was at 130 at the high. Nokia's up a little bit. MP, you had a lot of insider buying on that. That stock's up a little bit. Huh. 174 NASDAQ debut for SpaceX. Dude, I wonder what Anthropic's going to get. I wonder what OpenAI is going to get. I mean, if SpaceX is getting a 30% pop, I wonder what some of these other names eventually might see when they go public. And obviously Anthropic is thinking of the end of the month or the end of the year to go public. Elf is down. Nike is down. Energy sector is green. Let's look at the heat map today. It should be, given oil, although it's down, it's up a little bit. Wow, yeah, energy is really green. It's tech, communications, software, semis that are getting hit. Energy's up, financials are up, utilities. Financials having a good run all week, which is good to see. Insurance is up, defense is, Walmart, Costco is up. Your Apples, ever since that IPO, or not IPO, that Siri announcement, were not the best. Down from 317. HIMS is down. ServiceNow, that's crazy, man. But it's not just ServiceNow, it's all of SaaS. Palantir was at 160, ServiceNow was at 140. Adobe was at 260. Like that SaaS pump they gave us 2 weeks ago, they just took it away. And I'm trying to think why. Like, I mean, there wasn't any big AI update. I feel like they took it away because the whole market fell. But then as the market is somewhat recovering, it's selectively recovering because not all your semi names are up, but some of them are. But it's like none of your software names are up. Like AMD, not full recovery, but decent recovery. You can't say that for any of the software names. There's not a single software name that's even had kind of a mediocre recovery. Reddit is at 185, now back down to 162. As that one continues to get hit. Fable, yeah, but Fable was a good update, but that happened yesterday, right? And all these stocks have been falling since Friday, which felt more macro related. But also, Fable's not like, from my interpretation of the news I've read, Fable's not like killing ServiceNow, or like it's not interpreted like that. Whereas Opus 4.6 was interpreted as like legit in February killing all the software companies. I thought the street's over that narrative. Maybe they're not for now. But it is definitely testing people's patience. Broadcom right there, 379. As that falls below 380 as well. SoFi down 1. Google getting ready to go red, man. Google hit 347 yesterday, bounced all the way to 363. And now it's trying to hold on. All right, it's 10 a.m. Let's see if we actually get any shares traded on this. I don't think we will. Seems like we're going to have to wait a few hours, but let's see. Pull this up right here, see if we have anything.
It's public.
This is going to become the largest company on the planet.
I think it would be pretty cool if you could, vacation on the moon.
I wish them the best. I mean, they're inventing stuff that can, change humanity for the better.
Is SpaceX today worth 1 trillion? Maybe. Is it worth 3? Yeah, maybe.
The company over the next 10 or 15 years is going to be worth 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 30 trillion, and I could be very low.
I call Mars the fixer-upper of the planet, but it's got a lot of potential.
I'm not a fan. What you're talking about is an unbelievably capital-intensive business.
You're going to be keeping an eye at all on that other IPO that may be happening tomorrow?
Well, I'll be watching along with the rest of you.
I'm very optimistic for the future. I root for every entrepreneur. I'm rooting for Elon.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to a special edition of Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Sarah Eisen, David Faber here at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Today, it is all systems go as we await the public debut of SpaceX from here on the street to the NASDAQ in Times Square, where the company is listing. And that is where we find our Seema Modi and Morgan Brennan. Morgan.
All right, so we don't have to quote yet. We do have some macro data. Michigan 5 to 10-year inflation expectations have fallen from 3.8 to 3.4. So we have the UMich surveys today, which is bullish. Oh, wow. I think that flipped S&P green. Consumer sentiment 48 versus 44 expected. That's actually a pretty big beat. And then prelim expectations 49 versus 44. Okay, so inflation expectations down, consumer sentiment up pretty aggressively, 48 versus 44. 48 versus 46, and then 3.4 versus 3.8. I think that just flipped S&P, has not flipped everything else. You got some green candles coming in. But the SpaceX IPO obviously is not officially live yet. We'll be waiting for a few more hours, folks. So I'll be back after the lunch hour, and then we'll take a look at it. 1-year inflation, UMISH survey says 4.6 versus 4.9, which is a beat. And then 5-year 3.4 versus 3.8, which is also a beat. So that is going to be exciting. Amit, can't wait to see you in Singapore. I am very excited for Singapore. I will leave the link right here for anyone who wants to get tickets. We have about 2 weeks left for the meetup. Very excited about it. It will be my first vacation, legit vacation in like 5 years. So I have some family in Singapore. We'll get to do a meetup there, but we'll be going to Bali as well. So it should be a fun time. Should be a fun time. And then I'll be back July 6th, and we'll be back for the summer. We'll be back for the summer. Google 359. All right, so even with the S&P flipping, not everything else is really getting any meaningful flip. You're not really seeing much of this stuff move. Shopify still dead. Him still hit. Micron at 1,000. Okay, Micron and SanDisk, those are continuing to move. SanDisk just going crazy today. Oh my goodness, SanDisk is almost at 2,000, folks. SanDisk is about to hit 2,000. They need to split this stock. It's going to go to 400 overnight. Yeah, I will be out of the country on the 250th anniversary. I will be gone, unfortunately, that day. But July 6th, we will be back. So I'll be gone June 24th to July 6th, and we'll have a couple of market opens in between that. But July 6th, officially, we'll be back. AMD 515. Goodness, this one's making a move. Yes, my uncle will definitely make an appearance on one of the market opens. I'll be staying at his house. So he will definitely be there. Micron 1,000, S&P 738, Nebius, that flip screen. Okay, you're starting to see some of that momentum flip a little bit. Question is, can we hold on to it? Software momentum not even kind of starting to flip. I guess Adobe's not below 200, which is good enough. Space momentum also not really flipping. Rocket Lab still stuck, 105. And then Dell also above 400. Yeah, folks, it looks like it's gonna be until lunch, until they officially IPO this thing. Dude, that's 350 billion of demand chasing this thing is going to be kind of crazy. But it also is going to be incredibly exciting to see how the market interprets it. Let's get a little bit more coverage on the IPO.
% of the global space economy. Government budgets are only 22%. That's obviously, guys, a huge reversal than where we were many, many years ago, right? Where it was the government pumping all the spending. And this is why we have such cutting edge innovation when it comes to what SpaceX is trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I quoted earlier from the final S1 of the company, although this has been in there previously, in terms of what they see as their total addressable market. It's interesting when you heard Ron Barron, for example, one of the longtime investors, of course, with Elon Musk and any number of the companies that he started, Tesla certainly, and SpaceX, of course, the key ones. Total addressable market of 28.5 trillion. He's talking about it being a $30 trillion company. So trading at a multiple of some kind, at least, of its total addressable market. But most of that ends up being the opportunity it sees in AI. 22.7 trillion is the total addressable market for enterprise applications. It's interesting. As much as we talk about space, as much as you hear Musk talking about space, and then Starlink, the real opportunity in terms of addressing this enormous number is actually still the same opportunity that's being sought after by Anthropic and OpenAI and Alphabet and others.
Yeah, and there's a big question and whether SpaceX is.
I'm going to Hyperliquid real quick so we can see where the price is changing. This is more real time than the IPO. So it still has this, again, there's $300 million of open interest on this thing. It's at 177. So the NASDAQ IPO price is supposed to be 171. So it's already up from there, as you can see. Again, these are perpetual futures. This is not actually shares of the stock. But this has become a very liquid market for various illiquid assets. A lot of people use leverage in this stuff. So 360 million of volume, 300 million of open interest. But obviously the stock right there, down a bit from where it was a couple weeks ago at 200. But, you know, once 135 was set, the fact that it's at 177, that is why you're seeing a pretty big pop right there. Mr. Derek Wall, thank you for the 20 gifted. Derek, a good friend of the channel. Derek has been a longtime investor in SpaceX. I actually called him the other day, and he just got his allocation of shares. He actually invested in, what was it, XAI, had like an $18 billion valuation, which then ended up buying X, which then ended up getting acquired by SpaceX. He's just got a bunch more SpaceX stock because of that. But he's been in it for like the past decade. So put in the chat if you've had private exposure to SpaceX. I know Sachin, friend of the channel, has been part of an SPV on SpaceX for like, I don't know, almost 7-8 years. But our friend, Mr. Derek Wall, has had that exposure. Again, SpaceX has been one of the more liquid secondary shares to have for a long time. It's just, you know, it never had that crazy of a valuation like it is when it's going public. But part of the reason it's getting that valuation is because it's been tossed around so much in the private markets that now this is the public debut. And obviously there is lots of demand for that public debut. ARM right there is up 8. Nebius goes green. Micron above 1,000. S&P almost 740. Almost 740. Just owning Google count. I mean, if you own Google early before they bought SpaceX, technically, yeah. Technically, it does. Again, Rock Lab for a lot of people has been the exposure in some respects as well. Rock Lab 107, as that is also green on the day. Meta's Messenger has widespread outage after the last 30 minutes. Interesting. You know, I don't use Messenger anymore. I don't remember the last time I've used Messenger. I know a billion people use it every day. I used it a lot when I was in high school. S&P 740. But if that goes down for 30 minutes, that's obviously, you know, not the best for Meta. Meta right here, 564. As that goes red. It's affecting Instagram. Instagram's down as well. Dude, that's the last thing Meta needs. With their stock being as it is, they don't need... Oh, you're right. Instagram's not working. They don't need that to happen right now. They don't need that. SPY 740. Let's see if we can take out 741. And then maybe we end up flipping green for the day and hold that green. So we stopped at 735. Then we flipped. Again, IPO price for SpaceX 135. Expected to open at 175. But it's likely to take about an hour until it goes public.
Doing it more profitably. Also looking at some of these new numbers from the S1. But let's get to Leslie Picker for the latest on indications for where this thing could open, Leslie.
Hey, Sarah, that first indication, 174, that's now broadened to a range. We are hearing 170 to 175 is the first indicative range that we've gotten. Now what happens is essentially Morgan Stanley, the stabilization agent, will assess through the buy orders, the sell orders, figure out based on that volume what makes sense in terms of the ultimate opening price for this stock. But you can see indicative range now 170 to 175, which implies at least about a 25% jump at those levels, guys.
Leslie, I've been talking about this green shoe, which obviously would increase the number of shares issued to, I think, 638.8 million. When do we know whether that has actually taken place?
Usually that won't take place until the shares have officially started trading to know if they are going up or down, because the green shoe is used in different ways based on how the stock trades. So it's technically a stabilization and support mechanism. If the stock does drop, you can use that 15% over allotment to stabilize the stock and help bring it higher for its first day of trading. If the stock goes up, the company is then able to issue more shares to sell. It's able to raise 15% more proceeds for the company. So if it does open at 170, 175, the indicative range, still few.
NASDAQ anticipates SpaceX IPO to open for trading shortly. I don't know if that means they're open for bids to come in and then the market makers have to go through all them to price it, or that legit means they're going to open to start trading shortly. Because we keep hearing that it's going to take until 1 p.m. So, I mean, we'll find out probably in the next 30 minutes, but it might just end up taking a little bit longer.
Hours to go before we really know where this opened and how it trades today. And if the bankers feel confident, if the stabilization agent feels confident to exercise the green shoe, that's when we will get a sense. And they don't have to exercise the whole thing all at once as well. If they just want to do part of it and then save the rest for next week, if they just want to do it while the shares are higher, they can choose to do that as well.
Leslie, thanks. We'll talk in a little bit. Leslie Picker at Morgan Stanley. Of course, a big part of the SpaceX story is the larger than usual allocation of shares to retail. And some people were already able to get exposure through products like Fundrise's Innovation Fund, which made its debut earlier this year and counts SpaceX as one of its top holdings. Joining us this morning is Fundrise CEO Ben Miller. Talk about all the things that are important and historic about today, Ben. There's the innovation, what it means for the future of space. There's the workout that capital markets are getting and the prospect for the migration of private to public. What do you think is most important today?
Well, I think what's most important is that we are kicking off a new era. For the last maybe 10 years, most of what Wall Street was focused on was share buybacks, was focused on dividends. Let's say the CFO ran the street, and now SpaceX. I mean, the big question for me is not so much the trading price, but $75-100 billion IPO, a $2 trillion company. What are they going to build? This is the beginning of a new era in America where we've gone from focusing on efficiency last decade with like gig economy and better use of cars, Airbnb, more efficient delivery of advertising, to now an abundance era where we have, we're building AI, we're building spaceships, we're building, $5 trillion.
Again, a lot of that is true. The question is, will the capital markets support the valuation that they put on all of that? Because the problem with the story version of trying to justify SpaceX is that the story version of all these other companies doesn't match up, right? Like NVIDIA's story is incredible, growth is incredible, doesn't hold on. And SpaceX is going to be half of NVIDIA's market cap. So, if we make the argument that, NVIDIA's too big to move, it's like, well, SpaceX is not like it's a $200 billion company, right? So it's like the stories always sound good before the reality hits in of like, are people going to buy and sell this? And I think that's why today's so historic, is like, it's not just today, but over the coming weeks, will people have a liquid market to buy and sell at the valuation that it's trading at if they're not willing to buy so many of these other companies at incredibly discounted valuations? But granted, those companies just don't have an exciting story. And NVIDIA's story is exciting, but NVIDIA's story is also like old, like everyone knows about the story. SpaceX's story is one of the more fun stories that is out there. Amit, do you think we have a letdown next week? I don't know, man. It depends on how much people. I don't think retail's selling. Like for everyone who got their shares at 135 today, I really doubt over the next week, if it is at 170, people are going to sell for 30%. Some people might. I think a lot of people are going to hold it, and you're going to have that bid that's going to be held on. You're going to have a lot of institutional investors that probably are promising Elon that they're not going to sell for a long time, which might be a couple months, but that could keep it going. So I don't know. I don't think it has to get hit. Some people are saying you see it trading on eToro. I do not see trading on Robinhood. It's not on Webull yet either. People are saying 179. Let me check Hyperliquid. Yep, 179. This might end up matching the real-time flow that we see on the stock right there. 179. That's what you're getting. SoFi had a lot of these shares. Yeah, SoFi, Robinhood, Fidelity, they all allocated. SoFi had this in one of the ARK venture funds as well a while ago, as we're seeing it. Yeah, man, it might take some time. It might take some time. It's early access on eToro, probably the same as Hyperliquid. The real stock is not trading. Well, once we see what this ends up trading like, it's going to be a big one. Bloom getting a bid. A lot of these high beta names officially flipping at around 10.20 today. Nokia almost 15. The Qs, look at that, 7.20. That's a pretty big move on the Qs. Same with CoreWeave up 5%. Rocket Lab still getting hit. Meta still getting hit. NVIDIA at least 206. Nebius almost 240. SanDisk did not cross 2,000 yet. And then SPY, that's a pretty big move on SPY as well. 740.60. 741.50 would be nice. SpaceX at the top, $2 trillion in market value and NASDAQ debut. Shares indicates open at 175. Again, based on what she said, you know, the shares also, the bankers don't have to take forever if they don't need to. If they feel it's appropriate, they don't have to let all the shares out at once. So maybe we do see it quicker than not. Here's an update on the Iran deal. And then we will keep going from there. Actually, let's do SpaceX at the NASDAQ, and then we'll do the Iran deal. Here's the coverage on that.
What is a very historic IPO today, Seema.
And David, there are hundreds of SpaceX employees behind me. Anticipation really growing ahead of that opening trade. This is the NASDAQ, the market platform where shares of SpaceX will be listed and traded. And of course, it provides the infrastructure to open the stock and also facilitate the buy and sell orders. The goal, guys, today is to ensure fair and orderly trading. And that really works closely, the NASDAQ, with underwriters and the stabilization agent who determines when the stock is ready to trade. Just by far, the number one question, of course, is given the sheer size of this IPO, the number of buy and sell orders, when could we actually see the first trade for SpaceX? Now, for reference, Cerebras, which was the biggest IPO to date, it raised about $5 billion. It opened at around 1 p.m. Eastern. Snowflake was at a similar time, while Lyft was a bit earlier at around 11:45 a.m. Eastern. So that's just some perspective there. And, you know, given the expected market cap of around $1.7 trillion, it will be joining the biggest companies in technology that are housed here at the NASDAQ, like Apple, Google, NVIDIA. And guys, here's a snapshot of how these large companies traded on their first day of trade. NVIDIA gaining about 64%, Apple 18%, and then there's Tesla, Elon Musk's other company. It saw shares gain about 40% on its first trading day. Guys, there's a lot of betting happening. Prediction markets are already anticipating how SpaceX could open on its first day of trade. Fully Market is betting on a 70% chance of the IPO opening between $150 to $200. Of course, the latest indication we have at the NASDAQ is 175, but we'll be staying close and getting you more details as they come.
Okay, thank you, Seema. Seema Modi with the update from the NASDAQ. We do have some breaking news on Iran. Eamon Jabbers has details from Washington.
All right, so it looks like 1 p.m.-ish, folks. 1 p.m.-ish is what we're going to see for when that price officially goes live.
And amen.
Sarah, we're now getting some details from a U.S. official on what is in this proposed Iran deal. Remember, we began the week with these back and forth military strikes between the United States and Iran. Now we're seeing back and forth leaking of the terms of this deal, which does appear to be firming up behind closed doors. But what we don't know is actually what's in it. We saw earlier this morning an Iranian media outlet releasing terms that they said were in the deal, including that the Strait of Hormuz would be reopened under what they called Iranian arrangements. Not clear exactly what that means. And very little detail in the Iranian leak earlier this morning about what would happen with the Iranian nuclear program. Of course, that was the reason the United States went to war in Iran in the first place. We saw the president come out on Truth Social denouncing the leaks from the Iranian side and saying that's not at all what he agreed to or what is shaping up behind closed doors. He said the terms that Iran leaked out to the fake news have nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. What they said, including their weak and pathetic statement on having a deal, bears no relation to the truth. Very dishonorable people to deal with. the president says. And he says with them, there is no such thing as dealing in good faith. Amazing. Also, their totally rebuffed drone attack last night against Indian ships, leaving the Hormuz Strait is totally unacceptable. They better get their act together and fast. So the president frustrated with those leaks, and now we see from a senior administration official confirming to CNBC some terms that they say are in the Iran deal. They say the nuclear material will be destroyed and removed, the nuclear program will be dismantled, and none of their money will be released until they perform. This is what they have agreed to. A White House official says this is a performance-based deal. Guys, back over to you.
Okay, let's see if it materializes. Thank you, Eamon. Eamon Javers in Washington. We are still awaiting SpaceX's first trade, currently indicated to open in a range of $170 to $175 per share. Our next guest calls the record IPO, quote, too richly priced, says he's not buying it. Joining us now is NYU Stern School Professor of Finance, Dean of Valuation, Aswath Damodaran. It's great.
Okay, we'll listen to Aswath in a second, but in terms of that Iranian deal, markets not loving those updates. We just lost 741.50 all the way down to 739. So yeah, that update of Iran basically pseudo confirming but not confirming took Micron down from 1,000. These markets are choppy, man. They are very choppy. Every time you think you're getting a little bit of a trend, which was basically April and May, the trend was your friend. And now it's like the trend is absolutely not your friend. And or you at least can't trust the trend. Tesla goes red again, SoFi goes red again, SMCI goes red. So some of these names getting a little bit of a pump on that Michigan consumer data. SpaceX again still expected to be 175, but the Iran update's not really helping. S&P 739. 739.45. All right, Aswath, let's get his take on the SpaceX IPO.
Great to have you, Professor. So you don't like the valuation here? How are you thinking about it?
You know, this is like watching a kabuki dance. You could have called almost everything that's happened so far 3 months ago. The pricing, the 20% jump. I mean, I think that, let's get this straight. SpaceX is an amazing company. It's an engineering marvel. And it's also the reality that they have only 20 billion revenues, lots of potential. And even if you build in the biggest possible stories, getting to 1.8 trillion takes a lot of work. So let me be very specific. Valuation is personal. You make your best judgments on a company, you decide what it's worth, and you decide whether to buy. For me, the company just looks richly priced, even with really big stories about their three businesses.
I was going to say, you're not buying into the business now, obviously, right? You're buying into the future of the Starlink business and what that could mean for telecom, the future of the launch business, what it means for space exploration, and then, of course, AI.
If you stop with just Starlink and connectivity, you're not going to get even close to $1 trillion or even $500 billion. It's AI that's carrying this company, right? I mean, and that's the reality. This is the first step in OpenAI, Anthropic, this whole bunch of AI companies. This is either the culmination of the AI buzz coming to market or the start of a cleaning up phase where things are going to have to iron out as to how profitable this business is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was making this point earlier in terms of in the S1, the addressable market, Aswath, being seen as 28.5 trillion, but the vast majority of that, 22.7 trillion, is enterprise applications, not really what we're talking about today.
No. When I read that, I thought Grok had written the prospectus, because we know AI is subject to hallucinations. This is a hallucination. I mean, I don't know if it's a banker who wrote it, I would be embarrassed to even put that number out. I mean, it's a big market. Why do you need to make up a number? A number so large that it destroys your credibility. It's a big market. It could be 4 trillion, 5 trillion, and that by itself would make it one of the biggest total addressable markets out there. The 26 trillion collectively for AI is fiction.
I don't want to get too far away from SpaceX, but since we're talking about commoditization on language models, I mean, also we're talking about prices beginning to come down vis-a-vis competition, and enterprises also trimming their use cases because they realize they don't need models that understand quantum gravity, as the Journal said today.
Right.
Those two things together in a capital-intensive business, how dangerous is that?
You know, the next couple of years, you're going to see this business start to clean itself up as a business. You're already starting to see the seeds of it, the OpenAI cutting prices and people complaining about how much Claude is costing them when they use it in their day-to-day business. The AI business, at least is structured for the LLMs right now, is two prongs. One is that the cost of delivering AI products and services is not zero. It's not like the old software companies. Adding a subscriber costs you nothing. This is a costly business to deliver products and services in. And the second is the competition is going to be intense. I mean, you've got 4 big players, all with deep pockets, all using shareholders' money to fight it out. So it is going to be a big business. I'm not sure how great the profitability of the business is, to be quite honest. And what we're pricing in is the expected profitability, not how big the business is.
Yeah, I mean, the bulls would say, though, the how fast they were able to stand this up, get the supply chain, get it working, and then how profitable some of these deals are with Anthropic and Google is what's impressive and might leapfrog XAI versus the competitors.
You know, the 1.3 trillion in assigning in value takes the bull's case and carries it to its limits, right? I mean, if, you know, that's partly why I'm attaching a $1.3 trillion value to a company with 20 billion in revenues, which is losing money. This is not a small story. It's one of the biggest stories I've ever told. I just don't know how much give there is in the story to get past 1.3 trillion.
Aswath, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your perspective on this momentous day. Aswath
You're welcome.
from NYU.
After this, an exclusive with SpaceX president and CEO.
What do people think? What do people think? Do we agree? Do we think he has some valid points? Again, SpaceX still not live yet. Rest of the market, S&P really fighting for that 740 right there to try to break through. I don't know. Look, his valuation framework says it should be worth, what is it, 1.3 trillion, which is still, you know, a pretty hefty valuation. I think his argument is fair that it's hard to see it get it above that in the short term, but the future growth prospects obviously is what people are betting on, which is why you give the premium. The question is simply, you know, does that premium get justified today? And none of us fully know yet. Again, 174, IPO price is 135. That is what the market is expecting right here. We're trying to see how aggressive this ultimately can become. Rocket Lab still getting hit. Robinhood, again, those insider buys getting it to be excited, 92.74. Israeli defense minister says Israel must ensure it can act independently to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Okay. They've been saying that for a while. Nothing too crazy there. Dell at 400. Meta's down. SPY trying to get the pump. I feel like if we could break 741, it's off to the races for SPY. We have to break 741. 741.50 would be the best. Israeli defense minister says he and Netanyahu instructed Israeli military to prepare accordingly to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. See, that's the other thing about this deal. It's like, okay, is Israel working with the United States on this memorandum of understanding? Are they not? Is it Trump's MOU? Then Trump tweeted this morning that he's mad that the Iranians are leaking news, which means obviously the news is not agreed to if they're leaking certain details of it. And so, you know, what does that mean? Okay, S&P's pushing. She's pushing right here. Let's see 741. Can you give it to us? Can you give us 741? Develop a trend for the day. 743 was that pre-market high. So realistically, 743 could be out there. Oh, MicroStrategy is up 3%. Saylor was at a conference yesterday. And, well, he was asked some questions about selling his Bitcoin. And he had some interesting responses, which is what we got to see. Let me see if I can pull up the video right here. MicroStrategy up 3.28%. Rocket Lab down 7%. Robinhood at 93. Okay, here's the video. This is what he said when someone asked him why MicroStrategy actually sold some Bitcoin.
And I refused to do it because a troll on Twitter said, hey, you said never sell your Bitcoin. Like, okay, fine, I'll destroy $100 billion company so that I don't sell my Bitcoin. Well, the point is, I said to you, never sell your Bitcoin. I never said that the company wouldn't sell his Bitcoin. And anybody that's been listening to our earnings calls or reading our disclosures or has half a brain knows for the last 5 years, we've been very clear that, of course, we sell the Bitcoin if we have to.
Okay, so he has two responses. His first response is, I told you never sell your Bitcoin. I never said the company would never sell their Bitcoin. So that's one way to think about it. The other way to think about it is basically this argument that is like, I'm not going to bankrupt a $100 billion company based on this idea, this dogmatic ideological view that I would never sell my Bitcoin, which is quite ironic because for the past 4 years, he's been promoting this entire thesis of, I mean, literally the guy has been tweeting every time Bitcoin has a red day, sell your kidney, keep the Bitcoin. So when you come out and say, well, I'm not going to bankrupt my company, it's like, well, would you want people to sell their literal kidney? But keep the, it's like, yeah, you do. You've kind of been saying that for a while. So I think that's why people were a bit annoyed by his comments yesterday, because, I mean, you know, it's kind of going the opposite of what he's been saying. Regardless, Bitcoin's obviously been stuck. We'll see. Maybe the SpaceX IPO pulls it up. Maybe there's some more high beta momentum right there. But as of now, you know, that's not exactly happening. Yeah, he wouldn't sell his kidney. Exactly. You know, that's why I think people are annoyed. S&P, red candle right there, 739.40. Again, it would be really nice to see it break into the 740s when SpaceX goes public. You want to have the market participating, and basically to go green for the day, you would need that 740 level. You know, and then eventually, hopefully, SpaceX can match it. Cerebras, that's down 5. Amazon down 2. Microsoft 384. Microsoft at least got a bounce from 382, but you know, nothing super exciting right there on Microsoft. Hyperliquid up. SpaceX going down on Hyperliquid. 172 now on Hyperliquid. Wow. SpaceX shares now indicated to open at 170. Previously, it was expected to open at 175. Just got a $5 reversal, which is quite interesting. I mean, there is demand. The question is just how aggressive can that demand come into for SpaceX? Here's the SpaceX COO live right now.
All right, David, thank you. Yes, I'm here at the NASDAQ. I'm with Gwen Shotwell. Historic day, historic IPO, and just really incredible to be here with you. Final IPO pricing, $135 per share. The offering size kept the same. Why do that when there's so much demand out there? According to my colleague, Leslie Picker, 5 times, the final book, 5 times oversubscribed.
Well, you know, not everything has to get done on the first day, right? I think there's opportunity as we proceed down the path.
Okay. So you don't feel like you've left capital on the table when you see indications of $170 to $175 a share?
You know, the book that we set up that we've been working over the last couple of weeks is really a great book. We're really looking for investors that want to stick with us for the long term. And I feel really proud about what we've done.
Yeah, I mean, and as we mentioned, this is a history-making offering and a major milestone. There's been some debate about stock valuation, even as I think most of the first Wall Street initiations have been very bullish. What do you see as the key metrics that investors need to track as you and Elon and the SpaceX team realize this future?
So definitely folks should be watching how we're doing on Starship. They should watch consumer growth, consumer and enterprise growth on Starlink and Starlink Mobile. And then, of course, we've got the Grok, we've got AI, we've got coding. There's a lot. There's actually a lot going on.
I know, and you and I have been talking about it before. And so just to keep going with the conversation we had last week, Elon unveiling the AI-1 data satellite this week, also getting some reports that SpaceX could begin testing orbital data compute as soon as next year. Is that true?
I think we'll be launching the full AI-1 satellites late next year, but we will be putting compute on some of the Starlink broadband and the Starlink mobile satellites prior. We want to make sure we understand the operation. We love doing kind of canary sats and canary work before we fly the real thing.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about that as well, and sort of this iterative design process and this idea of flying and testing and testing. Since you and I last spoke as well, you inked another compute deal, Google. That's on top of the one you did with Anthropic too. Should investors see SpaceX as an emerging competitor in this neo-cloud environment, and when it comes to the terrestrial AI data center compute build-out that we're seeing from others?
100%. We are builders. We build our own launch vehicles. We build our launch sites, and we're building data centers both on the ground as well as in orbit soon. So I look at ourselves as an infrastructure company.
You and I have talked about it, capital intensive, and you've done these types of investment cycles before. You're also competing with OpenAI and Anthropic when we talk about something like Grok, the hyperscalers. Are you going to need to spend as much as those peers when you think about this over the longer term?
I think our use of compute is pretty efficient, so I don't think we'll have to spend quite as much CapEx as they are. And we also demand that our coders are quite efficient in their code as well. So let's put it this way, I hope not. I hope we don't have to spend that much money.
Well, and I think maybe perhaps one of the things that gets missed at times in the conversation is that when you're talking about some of these other companies, very software-specific engineers and folks at the helm, but you guys also have all the hardware.
For people saying it opened, I don't see it opening anywhere. Some of you guys are saying it open. I don't see it on Webull. I don't see it on Hood. If you do see it open, let me know where exactly you're seeing it or what brokerage you're seeing it on. But I do not see it open yet. Hyperliquid, it's at 171, so it's falling on Hyperliquid from that 175 price. But I don't think it's officially opened yet.
Expertise and manufacturing expertise too.
I think it's incredibly important. And in fact, we've brought some of that hardware focus, those hardware focused folks, and we've brought them over to XAI, and they've thrived there, actually. And it's a new thing for them to work on and to learn. Building launch sites, building rockets, building AI compute, building AI models.
Let's also talk a little bit about space. Space is hard. It can be risky. Case in point, unfortunately, what we saw with Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket on the launch pad a couple of weeks ago. What do you see as the biggest risks for the company, both short-term and long-term?
You know, that's a great question. There's not, I don't think there's anything sitting in front of us that I'm super worried about. I don't see any technology or any endeavor that we're looking at doing that I'm
okay, that's not the right way to respond to that question. That's like if you're in an interview and someone says, "What's your weakness?" and you're like, "Oh, I'm too excited to wake up in the morning and get to work," right? Like you always there's obviously some risks that are out there. Every company has risks. That's not me, right? That's a weird response. Like a normal COO would be like, "Well, this could happen, this could happen. We have to keep executing." And she's just like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine." That's kind of weird.
Afraid we can't do. I don't love crew fly days. Like those are nerve-wracking. I worry about those, but it's not about the technology. It's just, you know, you can have a random bad day and you really don't want them on those days.
Yeah, and I've heard you have a routine for those launch days too.
I do, yes.
What is it going to take to ultimately realize and build out this $28.5 trillion TAM that has been identified in your prospectus?
So I think if you think about just people using AI, it's hard to get to those numbers. But if you think about digital humans, you think about humanoid robots, you think about all cars on the planet eventually being full self-drive, they all need AI, compute, and comms, by the way. So all this need for compute on the ground kind of distributed across the globe, they all need to kind of reach back home. So I'm very excited about the combination of that plus the need for them to all kind of phone home because they'll be using Starlink for that.
I want to go back to this idea of risks. Yesterday, Iran state media reporting that Iran is targeting, quote, all interest related to economic holdings managed by Elon Musk in West Asia. Realize, even just in the last few moments, we've got more reporting on this, that we could get a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran as soon as this weekend. But what do threats like this mean for SpaceX?
You know, we've had threats, you know, at all levels. And I think when you're doing things that are really different and you're doing things that are trying to change the world, I think some people and some countries get mad, you know, but we always try to do the right thing, and we'll keep forging ahead.
Well, and SpaceX is a big and growing defense contractor as well. You've got contracts across all the segments, whether it's launch or whether it's Starshield, which is a national security-enabled Starlink, or Grok being used on classified networks now. So how do you think about balancing that government business against the commercial ones?
We're always going to support our government. Like, we're a company of patriots, and we want to make sure that our government has access to the leading technology and the best stuff. And I think we provide the best stuff.
And finally, well, and I hear about this a lot from military experts in terms of what it's doing in the warfighting domains. But finally, I want to go back to something you and I have talked about before, and that is founder, CEO, CTO, chairman of the board, Elon Musk. What is something that is maybe misunderstood or lesser known about him that investors, Wall Street, now Main Street, should know?
I think he's very misunderstood across the board. I want people to know him. In fact, he participated in some of the discussions that we have over the last couple of weeks with investors, and the investors left saying, I had no idea that is the man. And I said, that's the man I've worked for 24 years. I love him. I think his focus on retail, by the way, is kind of, I think that embodies a lot of what he's trying to do. He's trying to make space open for everybody. He wanted this IPO. He wanted regular people to be able to buy the stock. And a lot of folks participated at the retail level. Not even traditional retail, but by the way, if you look at all the individuals that were able to buy outside of the institution, it's like 33% of the round.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, the retail investor playbook and what this milestone means for that as well.
It is not open yet. I've got some news sources saying it could open as soon as 11, which is 15 minutes, but it is not open yet. We'll get back to that in a second. Rest of the market kind of taking a little bit of a dump. S&P, it just cannot hold 740, which is, I don't know, if you got the S&P down 2%, does SpaceX really get a big pop? So it would be nice. There's that ugly red candle right there, 738. It is not open. For those that are saying it's open, it is not open. I think I might just have to stay on until it opens, folks. I think I might just have to. I just texted Steve. I think Steve's going to join us. He'll just stream it to his channel as well, and we'll just be live until this thing opens. Because at this point, I don't know. It might be 1 o'clock. It might be 11 o'clock. Might be 11:30. Might be 12. I don't think we know. But we're gonna try to find out. ASTS getting destroyed. That's down 12. Rocket Lab, that's down 9. Mitt, what's your dad's plan for the stock? I don't think he's gonna sell. I think he'll just keep it. I don't know though. If it goes to 200, 210, he might be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm taking my money. So I don't know. It's going to be up to him. I'm not going to tell him what to do. But I think it really depends. If it's at like 150, I don't think he's going to sell. 160, if it's at like 180, 190, 200. You kind of would want the rest of the market to be really green, though, to expect that type of open. And you just don't have that. Even the names that are green are barely green. So this is the first interview, though, I've seen of the president of SpaceX. And I don't know, a little bit of a weird vibe in terms of how she's answering questions. And I mean, she's obviously the president for a reason, but some of those answers were a little weird. Regardless, Elon's the one that really matters the most when it comes to this. Elon has 80% of the voting control for the shares as well. So, you know, every decision that matters ultimately happens through Elon. Here is one of the earliest investors from Sequoia, Sean McGuire. Here's his take on what's happening with SpaceX.
A relationship manager for the companies in the so-called Musk orbit. Sean, good to have you. We're hearing the latest indications are 169. That would be above a $2 trillion value for SpaceX. I'd just love to start off by getting your reaction to that valuation for this company.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you hear me, Sean?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just getting adjusted to the audio.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Incredibly exciting day. Look, in the background, I think you can see the pad, which I think even before we talk about share price, like this is a company that has the most important mission of any company, I believe, in history. Today is just an early milestone. It's the beginning of the first, it's the end of the first chapter. And, next phase is we get to use Starship to try to build infrastructure all around low Earth orbit, explore the stars. Hopefully, your grandchildren, my grandchildren get to do science field trips on the moon someday. And so in terms of the share price today, look, it's early trading. I don't know where things will end up, but it's really just I view this as a very early intermediate milestone for the company. So I'm more thinking about 10 years from now.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, then, I mean, Sequoia is a company, and by the way, you've done what you're supposed to do. You invested wisely a long time ago at a far, far lower valuation. So I do wonder, in terms of your LPs who are like, hey, man, we want some of this to be monetized. How do you approach that, given you seem to be so bullish for the future prospects of the company?
Yeah. So it depends on the fund, depends on the fund lifetime. We have different obligations. Obviously, always, thinking about our fiduciary duty. For myself, though, I personally think SpaceX right now is more like NVIDIA 3 years ago than Tesla, which I think a lot of investors comp it to. And what I mean by that is I personally have very high confidence in explosive revenue growth, kind of like starting now, in a way that I think a lot of other investors are looking at, Starship, and they're struggling to predict timeline. They're struggling to, predict timeline of orbital data centers, trying to understand the build out with terrestrial compute, Starlink, direct to cell. Like, I look at the company, and I think you can basically assess the technical progress of all these different products. And I think what we're going to see over the next 3 years is like dramatic growth. And so the way I approach this is, obviously I've built a financial model. I have what I think the company's revenue is going to be in 2029, 2030. And I have what I think is, a reasonable multiple on that. The answer I get to is a very big number. I'm not going to give investment advice here, but I get to a very big number. And so, we'll make distribution decisions based on, going backwards on IRR numbers from our 2030 model. And so, of course, like, we'll distribute some shares to our investors if we feel like the valuation is way ahead of its skis. I personally don't think we're even close to that right now. And me as an individual, I'm going to hold my shares forever.
Sean, you are in the privileged position that you know Elon Musk really well. You've worked with him on a number of companies. I think you know him better than most. Yes, he's a young guy, but no, people aren't talking about the key man risk here around SpaceX. We talked about it with Tesla. It came up again when Musk was working at the White House. But what would you tell investors today that are wondering about that, and whether that makes a $2 trillion company riskier?
Look, Elon is the most visionary entrepreneur of all time. I also think he's underappreciated in his operational ability. I think he's the best operator in the world. And this combination of being a visionary, just absolute operational grinder, a technical genius, and an amazing salesman, like that combination has never existed before. So of course there is some key man risk. But on the other hand, I think Starship is already so far in its development pathway that, in my opinion, is guaranteed to work. Starship alone is going to unlock, I believe, trillions of dollars of like serviceable, addressable market. And so on this question, like, of course, like, I don't think anything's going to happen, but even if something did happen, I think that there's a decade plus of, revenue growth that's already kind of baked into the company. I think the key man risk is more around, the far distant future. What is the final state. Does this company take us beyond the solar system? But I don't think it really matters for any of the terrestrial projects. And I'll just say, because I think people are underestimating how far along those projects are right now.
I want to know what your 2030 model looks like then, Sean. What's that revenue number?
It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. It's in line with what Goldman has said. And I know that sounds pretty crazy, but I believe it. And I've done the work. For what it's worth, I built a pretty crazy model on Starlink back in 2019, 2020, which has tracked pretty accurately. So, gotten one right.
Yeah. All right. Hundreds of billions, right. From, again, 18.5 billion right now, roughly. So that is a huge multiple.
Hyperliquid shows 169, folks. So they're trying to figure out how to price this thing, which is why it hasn't gone public yet. Morgan Stanley now saying Bloomberg saying 166 instead of 175. Fidelity saying 165. Hyperliquid very close to that price. So we are probably going to find out in a bit what this ends up trading at.
I'll say,
yeah.
On the 18.5 billion, though, I think it's important. Some of the announcements that the company's made with with Anthropic, with Google, potential Cursor acquisition, Starlink growth. I think it's pretty easy to have high confidence.
Real quick, S&P just flipped really green. Can we hold that? Is that news based? Is that technical? S&P, look at that candle, 737 to 740. That was almost instantaneous. I don't see any news. I think this is it. Iran Foreign Ministry says the memorandum of understanding has never been closer. I think that might do it. I think that's basically an agreement on war. I mean, it's not literally, but it's technically an agreement. Where's SpaceX on Hyperliquid? SpaceX is 170 up from 165. So that is pretty big of a move right there. 740.70. Let's see if we can take out 741. But there's your green candle flip off the lows based on this headline that this deal is hopefully closer than not. Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing well. We got a pretty historic IPO coming up in the next hour.
We do.
741 right here. S&P really moving right here. There's a lot to analyze, a lot to talk about. Steve, I'll just start with your raw take. How are you feeling about the fact that we're actually taking this baby public, $2 trillion in the public markets?
It's weird. I got a conspiracy alley in my mind because I got a couple of calls this morning and I saw what you had posted. I saw what Roy had posted, and I talked to Matt, so I know what you guys got allocated. I will tell you, a couple of my buddies got very sizable allocations. And I'm very sizable. We're not talking a few hundred shares either.
Well, as you say that, S&P is freaking moving right here. Moving. Okay, so you have some buddies that are getting a decent chunk of stock.
I don't want to say how much. I'm going to text you right now how many shares. You confirm if you feel that this is sizable based on what you guys got.
Sachin says, big day of my investing career, bought SpaceX at $4 in February 2020. Congrats, Sachin. Absolutely incredible.
Look at your phone.
Yeah, that's a pretty big amount. Those are multiples beyond what retail has been getting.
I mean, that makes me think that this wasn't as oversubscribed as what they said, if they were getting that much. And these are all people that I trust.
Well, 20% of it is still allocated to retail. So maybe because they asked for so many shares, they were seen as customers that have the money to, pay for a lot of shares. So that might be the
And
reason.
I will say that I believe they got roughly 40%, 30 to 40% of what they put in for.
Yeah, it's a decent amount. Again, Sachin, congratulations, man. For those that got in the early days.
Congrats.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah, this is going to be a big one. I have a couple other friends that got in. I don't know if they got in as early as $4, but this is one of those names that's going to get a lot of people liquid that took a chance on this. When in 2020, it wasn't sure if SpaceX was going to survive and become this massive company. XAI wasn't there, Grok wasn't there, Neo Clouds wasn't there. Like this whole AI revolution barely was there. Robinhood trying to push 95 right here, but now it is.
I listened to This Week in Tech with Gerstner and the other guys that are on it. The more that I listen to all these people, the more that I think that the valuation is BS today, but this could become the biggest company in the market potentially. I mean, if everything plays out, and I have no reason to think that they're not being truthful about Starlink. They're saying that no matter where they go, and some of them are gamers, Starlink has the lowest latency and the quickest speeds that they can get. And they made a very good point. Driving through California, I think Sand Hill Road is what they said, they drop phone calls. So who isn't going to switch to direct to cell from SpaceX, Starlink, if it's just as cheap as Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile? And then from an internet standpoint, if SpaceX is able to produce the cheapest internet rate for the highest speeds, why wouldn't you switch? I mean, you talk about the TAM just on that, it's huge. I don't know if it's possible or not, and I don't know if it's going to take 5 or 10 years or what's possible, but you have to think with all the things that they're in, this could be infinite TAM because we don't know how big space can be. But just on the telecom and internet, who knows if they become the number one player on those?
Yeah, and look, ultimately that's going to reflect in the growth if it happens, right? We can talk about theoretical infinite TAM, but if in the next coming years they start growing in video types of numbers, I mean, yeah, the valuation's more than justified at that point, but I think that's the big question for everybody. Here's a part of that Gerstner pod from last night talking about the IPO.
When I look at the bull bear case on the IPO, right, the bears are looking at last year's revenue, say it was $18 billion, and they're looking at the forecast from the banks of $160 billion, 3 years from now, and they're saying, listen, not many companies in the history of the world have basically 8x their revenue over 3 to 4 years, right? So that's where, I think, and people get nervous about the valuation. When I look at this, again, when you break it down as an analyst, first principles, part by part, which is what I tried to do here, right? When you look at Starlink, it looks totally doable. When I look at what they're building in AI compute terrestrially, looks totally doable over the course of the next 3 years. When I look at the model itself after the acquisition of Cursor, combining those things around the compute they have, that looks to me like it could be an upside surprise. So I would say that I think that, in the IPO, but I think when you look back 3 years from now, there's a decent chance that everybody's like, oh my God, that was super obvious, right? Even though today, all of these things have risk associated. And back to where we started. I'm not, none of us are here to pump the IPO at 1.77 trillion. It's really to just break it down as we do inside our shop and to say, what is that distribution of future probabilities? What's the probability that is higher from here? And I think we're all pretty AI pilled. And if you're AI pilled, that means we got to build a lot more compute than the world thinks, and that these models are going to be a lot more valuable than people think. You combine that with their core business. I don't know another entrepreneur or another business that's a better bet on the future, right, than SpaceX. And so I think for most institutional investors, it's a must buy, a must own. It's set it and forget it, right, in order to have a real bet on both the space and the AI future.
From your lips to...
Look, obviously, I don't think they're literally trying to pump it, but Gavin Baker and Brad Gerstner have owned this for the past decade. They will be selling some of their position as soon as they can. And that's what they have to as fiduciaries. But, if you own it, it's easier to make sense of the valuation. If you don't, you have to do a lot more work to say, what is this thing going to be worth? Steve, you're muted.
With everybody that is going to be talking about this for the next couple of weeks, I don't think anybody should be surprised if this goes to $2.5 trillion. I really don't, or 3. Even if it doesn't make sense, Tesla's never traded at a valuation that had made sense. Why should SpaceX? I may think that the valuation is BS, but you have to be very objective and say that they're likely to become the largest neocloud if they're not already the largest neocloud after these two deals. They're likely to sign more. Jensen has never said that any other company has been able to stand up data centers as quickly or efficiently as the team from SpaceX. They're likely to stand up more. What if things go right with this company? Maybe Ron Barron isn't as crazy as he is, and I'm looking at it too much of how long does it take them to get to 100 billion of EBITDA? Maybe it is 5 or 10 years, but maybe I'm just wrong on this.
Yeah, but you can say that, but are you actually going to put some money behind it?
Probably not. Not right now.
That's my point. It's like theoretically you can see what happens, but if you're not willing, and you're not alone, a lot of people are not willing to put real capital.
I mean, I'm going to buy for my nephew. There's no question about that. I just don't think I'm going to buy for myself. But when I say I'm going to buy for my nephew, it's a much different share count of what I'm buying for him than what type of position I would take.
Yeah, I just, I can't get behind the valuation. And I also think if it goes from 2 to 3 trillion, it's like, okay, that's a nice move, but I mean, there's a lot of names that can make that type of a move with a lot less risk, But I'm excited for it being a public company because I'm just a fan of that type of innovation.
Oh, and at what point do people actually take their profits? You have people, right. I mean, think about the slide I shared with you last night when we shot. I mean, that hockey stick is real. Camillo talks about it all the time. The Dumb Money Channel has been talking about it all week, the hockey stick. And you look at the valuation, it has just gone up, up, up. And this company is going to be so capital intensive to get to where they need to go. Does that destroy the valuation over the next year or two in order to grow the company to a $5 trillion company in the future? I have no idea. This is the hardest thing to handicap.
Okay, so I have a poll right here. 65% of people say SpaceX will pump versus dump. Let's do a different poll. SpaceX, 5 trillion in 5 years. Because I feel like if you're not assuming it can at least do that in 5 years, then what's the point of buying it today, right?
Yeah, and what is that, 1.5x from where it's going to go?
I mean, you would imagine the S&P potentially can do better than that as well. If we really do have the AI story continue to play out. So what do we think? 5 trillion in 5 years, is that possible on SpaceX? CoreWeave 103. So Steve, what is your thoughts on this Iran deal, basically in the words of Trump, being officially done? I mean, do you believe it here? Do you think it's just stuff to pump the markets?
Yeah, I think why wouldn't we believe it? We know that his birthday is this weekend. You got UFC 250, you got the SpaceX IPO. You got midterms coming up. They need this done. And he probably told Bibi, if you do anything else, we're not supporting you ever again. So cut it out.
So you don't think enough. So you think he's finally winding it down and this is the legit official end of this saga?
Maybe it's the optimism side of me and the humanitarian that I don't want to see 92 million people without power because there's a lot of innocent women and children. So maybe that's playing a part of it, but I think that they got to be close. I mean, the reality is that if we were to go on a full-out war, there's a 0.0000001% that the U.S. loses. Iran has to know that it can't end well for them at the end of the day. And my only question is, whoever we're negotiating with, what is the chances they actually have control over all the different tribes? That's my big variable. I have no idea. But I'd like to think that we are very close because what's the alternative? That we take everything out? That's not good for anybody.
Which is why when Trump said we're going after Carg Island yesterday, oil markets didn't even react because I think even the markets were like, he's not serious about it. And then 3 hours later, he ended up saying I'm not serious about it.
But even if he was serious about it, what are they going to do? Nothing.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything. If Trump was to send the Marine, like legitimately the Marines in, and then the 82nd to do containment and then special forces in, you're not doing anything. Like nobody's doing anything about it.
SpaceX on Hyperliquid 167. Here's an update from the NASDAQ president before the shares officially go live.
You've been here for 25 years. Yes. What did it take to get SpaceX, and how did it compare to clinching some of the other big deals you've worked on?
I think NASDAQ takes what we call a NASDAQ 1 approach. So the whole company gets behind a discussion with a company like this and how we actually become a partner to them. I think if you look at NASDAQ, we listed trillion-dollar companies. We have the deepest, most liquid markets in the world. And then we wrap around an amazing partnership. You see the excitement here at NASDAQ. We had an opening bell here in New York and in Texas with Elon making some incredible remarks. And then throughout the day, we just have amazing celebrations. But the most important thing is we have to open the stock and get the right price.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It is a record-breaking IPO. What do the indications tell you right now, and how far we are?
Yeah, so if you look at an offering size, they typically like to find the stabilization agent likes to find about 10% of shares for the opening price. So if you price 555 million shares, that's about 55 million shares. Right now, we're thinking about 29 million. The indicative price is around 162, 165. That's been very stable for a while now. So they still want to get the order flow. So once the stock does open up, there's enough support for it to maintain a price. Obviously, we expect some volatility. But right now, we're moving away through the process and probably a few more hours.
Because it's a $1.7 trillion potential market cap, what kind of stress test did you put in place to ensure today is orderly and that that trade is smooth?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a whole ecosystem that's behind that. So we test all the time at NASDAQ. Every weekend, the street can test with our systems. But for this, we obviously do a bit more coordination. We've done a lot of modeling with the different participants. Today, obviously, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley are the lead underwriters. Morgan Stanley is the stabilization agent. So just a lot of work in communication. So we're built on amazing technology and resilience. We have the most transparent system in the world with a lot of data we provide them to make sure they have the information they need on their shareholders. And there's the people you're seeing behind us upstairs. We're making sure that the systems are working as they should and talking to the participants.
Certainly a team effort. There was a fast rule that allows companies like SpaceX to be included into the NASDAQ 100. Is the ballpark 15 days? Will SpaceX be in the NASDAQ 100 by early July?
Yeah, so it takes it back to our value proposition. It is this idea, NASDAQ lists the home of the most innovative companies in the world. We have a lot of services we provide companies to help them understand their shareholder base. And then obviously the index is another additional advantage to be on NASDAQ. And at this point, yes, they would be in the index within 15 days. And at that point, they're part of the NASDAQ 100, which is meant.
That's a big deal. 15 days to get exposure into the NASDAQ 100. Those institutional flows could be coming in a couple of weeks at that point.
I
don't like it. I really don't like that they bent the rules for this.
I mean, you might not like it, but your buddies that got all these shares these mornings.
Oh, trust me, they're loving it. The amount of shares I just texted you, they're loving it.
They like it. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is how the NASDAQ probably won the bid from the New York Stock Exchange. And this is what Elon got to negotiate, which is why they're going to catch this further bid.
It's why it's Elon.
Non-financial companies in the world by market cap. So it's natural that they'll be in.
This moment, how would you describe it, especially with two other big IPOs in the offerings, Anthropic and OpenAI?
Yeah, it actually has been a very good year already for IPOs. It was a building in 2025. We're seeing good deals this year. This is obviously a historic offering. And then we do expect actually a very strong July. We'll take a bit of a pause in August. And the fall, it's probably in my last 10 years, the most diverse pipeline of IPOs we've seen, anywhere from mid caps to large caps and obviously to mega caps.
Okay, Nessa, we'll stay close as we wait for that opening trade. Latest indication, as you pointed out, 162. Carl, Sarah, I'll send it back to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Seema Modi from the NASDAQ. SpaceX currently indicated to open at 162, soaring above the price where it priced 135. Our next guest is a longtime backer, personal friend as well as Elon Musk. He made his first bet on SpaceX in 2006 and is currently now the second biggest shareholder after Musk himself. Joining us now for CNBC exclusive, founder and CEO of Valor Equity Partners, SpaceX board member as well, Antonio Gracias. David Faber's back with us as well for the conversation. Antonio, we're thrilled to have you today. I mean, I just want to start by asking what this moment means for you as someone who's basically been there since the beginning.
It's truly extraordinary, Sarah. Thank you. Grateful to be here with you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, it's just amazing to be here, so with the team and see the extraordinary energy of all the people who worked so hard for so many years to make this happen. It's a tremendous milestone, and I'm feeling a lot of gratitude.
Well, I guess one question people will be wondering is what you'll do with your, nearly 7% stake, which is set to be worth at least $70 billion here, I think.
Well, most of that's owned by the firm's clients. So we'll, in time, exercise fiduciary need to. I plan personally on holding my stake as long as I possibly can.
What is your vision for SpaceX, and how different is it than when you first got in, more than 20 years ago?
I mean, look, this is, think about it as some combination of owning the British East India Company as we colonize both.
This guy definitely sounds rich. this guy sounds like he's worth a lot of money.
The solar system and then on beyond. And the moon mission. I mean, think of all great technology that got developed in the moon mission, right? Your cell phone is an example. I think it's one of the most consequential companies in human history. And we're going to see how it all plays out. I'm very curious.
I mean, what has to sort of go right? Because for investors, you know, there are a lot of different businesses here, from Starlink to launch in space, as you said, to the AI company, which some are most enthusiastic about. How do they all work together?
Look, we have 20,000 people here. They're some of the best engineers in the world. And what we're building is building the entire stack from energy to compute to launch to orbital compute. So think about this as one integrated system to really move us up the Cartesian scale, as Elon says, so we can expand civilization and survive multiplanetary as well as build artificial intelligence. So it's really building the future. Think about this. What investors are buying today, we've been buying for really 20 years, is the ability to help make the future, is being part of this extraordinary company.
Antonio, you know, you're going to be, you are a board member now of one of the largest public companies in the world. I'm just curious as to how you see your responsibility, whether it changes at all, obviously, given your long history with Mr. Musk as well.
Look, we're fiduciaries and shareholders, and I think the shareholders will be very pleased. This company's going to create value over a long period of time, exceptionally well. So, yeah, I think about it as being a good steward of capital, as I do for my funds, and I've done for other public company boards I've sat on.
As somebody who's also been an investor in Tesla, you know, and I know Elon has given voice to this in some ways. Do you believe there's a union that makes sense between SpaceX and Tesla at some point in the future?
This is way above my pay grade. I wouldn't want to comment on that. That's really for the management team here to think about and for us to think about in the future.
All right. Well, speaking of the future, we've been talking a lot this morning about SpaceX's future in terms of the total addressable market that it sees, some $28.5 trillion. Most of that made up by $22.7 trillion in the total addressable.
S&P 743, folks. You're getting a nice big move right here. We don't know when this thing is going public, hopefully in the next 20, 30 minutes, but markets are cooperating right now. You're seeing a lot of stuff flip green.
Market for enterprise applications for AI. And I'm just curious to get your thoughts about how you see the evolution of the company meeting that potential goal, at least, or opportunity.
Look, you're seeing us today begin to sell compute. We build the best, most coherent large clusters of compute in the world, the best supercomputers in the world. And lots of enterprise clients want to buy that compute now. And then over time, as our models develop and we develop our own AI systems, you'll see us integrate forward into the application layer even more than we are today. We have real-time data from XAI, and we're truth-seeking AI. And it's important to remember that the models are imbued with the values of the creators, and we are the only truth-seeking AI in the world. So I believe that over time, we'll take more and more share because people want the truth. They want real-time data and the truth. The thing about it is integrating from energy to compute forward applications. That is our plan, ultimately to end up with orbital compute as well.
Antonio, when you think about the building blocks of all of this that are going to eventually be investment opportunities, not by name, but by category, can you talk about what areas are most interesting to you?
In terms of the application layer or the overall
anything that it's going to take to make this happen over the long term?
Look, I think all of it. I think you begin with energy, the utilization of energy, using that well, power, and then move into compute, the way we utilize compute, build our data centers, build the entire system networking. Coherence matters a lot. I think people undervalue that. They don't understand that not all compute is the same. And we built the best, most coherent clusters of supercomputing in the world. You then go to orbital compute and launch. Obviously, if you have free power and your launch costs are low enough, you'll have very low cost and very efficient compute in orbit. So that's sort of what we see today. Starship enables all this. But what's been amazing about this team in the last 20 years is most of the stuff you see today, like Starlink, Starship, these things were not imagined 10 years ago. This team's extraordinary at actually finding the next thing, doing whatever's required to meet the overall mission of making humanity multiplanetary and bringing artificial intelligence to reality in a truth-seeking way. So I'm excited. I'm super curious to see what happens next and what they will find and what they will build. and all the things are required as we go from Earth to Moon to Mars and beyond. It's sort of hard to even think about how big these markets are and what this company will achieve.
I just had, Antonio, a few more governance sort of questions to follow on David's point about your role as board member. Are there safeguards in place if conflicts arise among, Starlink, SpaceX, XAI, Tesla, a lot of these Musk ventures?
Sorry, I lost you there. I lost the audio.
Well, I was asking, from a governance perspective, if what safeguards are in place, if any, if conflicts of interest arise among the various businesses that Musk controls from Starlink. I mean, a lot of these, they deal with the government, Tesla, SpaceX, XAI, and they're all going to be presumably a big part of our future. So how as a board do you deal with any potential conflicts?
Look, the reality is you want to do the right thing for the shareholders. Obviously, follow the law and make sure that anything that comes up will be resolved in a reasonable way for all parties. That's the most important thing. It's using a common sense approach to think through these conflicts in compliance with whatever the law is. That's what we've done in the past. We'll do in the future, and always with the mind of what's great for the shareholders of all companies.
Speaking of your fiduciary duty, I mean, you mentioned earlier most of the gains, of course, from the great investment you made in SpaceX are due to your owed to your fund holders, essentially, or at least the accretion in value. But Antonio, to what extent do you actually monetize then for some of those gains? Or more simply said, when do you actually consider selling some of these shares?
So look, our usual process is to distribute shares, not sell. That's how we usually do it. And I just want to take a moment to thank all my clients. I mean, they've been amazingly patient with us over, last almost 20 years, going through these investments with us, and very supportive. So the reality is, people make their own decisions once you have a distribution of shares, what they're going to do with them. And, we'll likely follow that process here.
Iran update. Here's the coverage on this. This is what's getting S&P now to intraday highs.
Pending its finalization, the media should refrain from entering speculation about its content in line with our responsible and transparent approach. All details will be shared with the public in due course. And of course, Sarah, that's the key to this, is if there's a deal pending, what is in this deal and what does that mean for global oil markets? Obviously, watching this very closely. We have a statement now from Vice President J.D. Vance on social media as well. And he is also urging people to hold off on assuming what's in this deal based on what's been in the media so far from Iranian leaks. The vice president very frustrated with that. He says, I'm seeing a lot of fake information about a potential deal to reopen the strait and end Iran's nuclear weapons program. First, the Iranians are not receiving any cash and no funds are being released for simply signing a deal or attending a meeting. The deal is structured to ensure that the U.S. and its allies' concerns are prioritized and that if the Islamic Republic of Iran meets its obligations, then economic benefits will flow to them and to the entire region. This deal has the potential to remake the region and to lead to lasting peace. The vice president goes on to criticize some of the criticism of this deal that he's seen so far. So both sides, Sarah, have been, we've seen leaks coming out from Washington and from Tehran about what's in the deal. Both sides are denouncing some of those leaks and saying that's fake news. Clearly something is happening behind the scenes. What's in this deal, we don't know. How soon that means the Strait of Hormuz might reopen, we don't know. How soon oil can flow as a result of that, we also don't know. There's a lot at stake here, Sarah. Back over.
Not to mention where the Israelis sit in all of this morning.
Exactly.
Eamon, I see the...
All right. Markets like it. Steve, what do you think?
Let's see what happens. I think they want a deal. I thought they wanted a deal for a while, and they only have another 2.5 weeks to really get one done. So let's hope it's this weekend.
It's a pretty nice pump on SPY, 743. I mean, yesterday we got to 737. So this is the right environment.
You see what Dan Ives just said?
What do you say?
There's an 80% chance that Tesla and SpaceX will merge within the next year. Came out 6 minutes ago.
Do you actually think in the next year, though, it happens?
Why not? It would make sense.
It makes 100% sense. I just think it's going to be a little complicated to merge those types of companies, the size of what they are in a year.
I just can't figure out a reason that it would get blocked. There's no antitrust whatsoever. And if they did, could you imagine how vertically integrated SpaceX becomes? Not only do they have the rockets, but they build the vehicles and the robots. They're going to build everything in space.
Oh.
I want to be very clear. I think this valuation sucks. I think that this is going to be exit liquidity in the short term for a lot of people that have made 100 to 1,000x on their investment. Long term, 10 years plus, if everything works out, you have to at least think that there's a chance this becomes the most valuable company in the market, especially if they merge with Tesla.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
I can think it sucks today, but I can also be a realist and realize that this has a lot of potential.
Amcor, by the way, massive day, 82. That's up 7.8%. A lot of names officially flipping green. Meta's green, Dell's green, SanDisk, Micron, NVIDIA green, SPY just keeps pushing up almost 1%. Rocket Lab, not green, but trying to flip. Bitcoin right there, 64. CoreWeave, nice rebound. That's up 9%. Did get into the NASDAQ yesterday. Nebius as well, 237. I think the biggest piece of news around the SpaceX IPO is I just realized they're selling merch.
No, they're not.
Well,
what, Occupy Mars?
I don't even care what's on the shirt. All I want is this cowbell. They have a cowbell, dude.
No, they made that for you.
I have to get this. I have to buy this cowbell. I don't care how much it is. The future is Mars. There's the merch right there. There you go. Derek in the chat, he's been early SpaceX for a while. He says he's never selling either. I believe him.
I believe him too. I feel like not a lot of people are actually going to sell that buy it. And a lot of the long-term holders probably won't sell it that don't have. See, if you don't have an obligation to your shareholders to turn a profit, have distributions back to them and make new investments, if you can hold it, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's the emotional side that people are so excited. S&P 744, boom, there's your breakout. There's the emotional side that people are so excited, but then there's the using their heart, and then the people with using their brain are like the valuation doesn't make any sense, and that's what a market is. There's a buyer and a seller, so everyone's trying to make sense of it. But
yeah, if there's more buyers, it's going to go up, and today there's probably going to be more buyers of it.
Yeah.
How many people are trying to buy for their kids and their grandkids? Think about that too.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Robinhood, by the way, is loving the SpaceX action. 95.70. I mean, triple digits. Last time we saw that was back in February. So it would be really cool to see this thing come back and get to that level. Meta right there, 574. Dell at 406. Dell back above 400. Nokia back above 15. Broadcom, which I know Steve recently bought, 383. At least it's up from that kind of 370 level. So that one's not green, but definitely recovering from the lows of a couple of days ago. And Micron back to 1,000 as well.
You know what's not loving it?
Adobe.
Reddit.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Reddit, it's SaaS. I mean, dude, ServiceNow, 140 to 102. Palantir barely holding on to 130. Well, I mean, we all know you think the whole SaaS apocalypse is dumb, but why do you think the market once again put them in the doghouse after the one that
I don't know. I stayed up late last night after we shot, and I wrote a very in-depth article about Salesforce last night. I went through the numbers again. This is the clearest discount in the market. I don't know, man. I don't know why the market doesn't believe that these companies are thriving. The market is believing that AI is going to disrupt them, and we're not seeing it show up in the numbers. We're actually seeing the exact opposite. Salesforce is trading at under 10 times free cash flow. 10 times. I mean, if they traded, do you think a 20 PE is that much for a company that's growing?
No, obviously not. It's
So-
just this one's where narrative's taking over, right?
Right. But at a 20 PE, this thing trades at 280. Actually, 282. They're going to do over $14 of EPS this year. It's just, it's insane. The market's narrative on SaaS believes that they are all facing an existential threat. And it's just so far from the truth. And it's not just Salesforce, it's Workday, it's ServiceNow. And I don't know what it takes to change it. And the narrative's not there, but you're also not seeing Microsoft's down again. For what reason? So I don't know. We must not like cash flow and profitability.
I do think at some point the market just realized, like the fact that Salesforce was at 205 2 weeks ago, right? So we did see the market flip, but that was when all of SaaS flipped. And so I kind of think it's down. I don't even think because the market hates Salesforce. It's the market hates SaaS because all SaaS is down again. So maybe we see that flip, but until we do, I mean, Adobe was at 260 a couple weeks ago, right? So many of these names, I think they just need a bit more time. For those asking for SpaceX, it is not live yet. I know people are waiting for it. It's not officially live yet. It might take another hour. On Hyperliquid, it is falling to 163. So that 175 NASDAQ intro price is not there anymore. But it's interesting because all the market makers are trying to assess how much demand there actually is and then put out a listing price. But we don't officially have it yet. Let's get some more coverage right here.
Not just being an astronaut, but being an IT worker. How do those things get resolved? How much of a hill is that?
Well, I think satellites don't need people. Most of these satellites.
Okay, Bloomberg now saying 155. Initially, they had one. S&P just got a red candle. Initially, they had 175. So that's interesting. At 10 a.m., Bloomberg was saying 175, and now you're seeing 155. That's a pretty steep discount.
You think that there's now a chance that this flips a red at some point today in the afternoon?
Is there a chance? Yeah, but I don't think it actually goes below 135.
All right, so what I texted Amit was that 3 of my buddies got 1,800 shares, 1,650 and 2,150. They all put in for way more than that. That's what they got allocated. And these are not billionaires. These are not people that are worth $100 million. They do well. And my thinking this morning was, man, if they got that type of allocation, was it really as oversubscribed as what the media was letting on? Because I looked at X this morning and I saw that Amit got 1 share. And I saw that, and I know what Matt got. It was not a lot of shares. I know Roy said that he got 3 shares. So, I mean, the people that I know outside of this community that got 1,000 plus shares, they got 30 to 40% of their requests filled. Was it really that oversubscribed? I mean, they don't really have any crazy connections to get it. I mean, maybe one of them does, but the only connections that I would say is they have business accounts. I don't know what that really accounts for.
Okay, how do you think the markets would react if we play out the worst case scenario and SpaceX opens maybe at 150 and then goes to like 130? Like, I think that would be crazy.
Oh, market's going down 5% because you're going to have the narrative spring then that this was all a scam. It's going to be included in the NASDAQ. This is exit liquidity, blah, 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 blah. The worst thing that you want is this going red today.
Yeah.
Even if you're not in it and you're hoping that you can get shares cheaper, you want this to go red in like 3 or 4 weeks. The last thing you want is for today to go red, because that is a signal that next week it's probably going lower. And that's not what you want.
Yeah, just also, I mean, even Cerebrus got a 380 pop, so if SpaceX can't get any pop, but I think they will get a pop. I mean, even if the pop is minimal, like the idea that this doesn't get a pop would be very surprising.
Very surprising.
CoreWeave, that one is getting a pop, but now it's getting a little bit. S&P going red, not red, but red candles. CoreWeave, red candles. Palantir, red candles, loses 130. Broadcom, Reddit. Robinhood's still up, but you got some red candles.
I feel like Reddit's overdone. I mean, 7%. Like, what happened that's down 7% and ServiceNow is down to only 1.5%? Like, why is Reddit so much more volatile?
Do you think, okay, so if someone said, Steve, SaaS or semis right now for the next year?
Semis. It's not even a question. And here's the reason why.
I agree.
The valuation makes all the sense in the world for SaaS, but the valuation on semis isn't that crazy. And the narrative is there for semis. We're spending more money. I mean, you have to think that semis can keep working is a more probable bet than SaaS. The market has to change its opinion on SaaS. It doesn't have to change its opinion on semis.
I agree with you. Although I think SaaS is undervalued, the answer is semis, because that's where the narrative is. That's where the capex is, and quite frankly, that's where the earnings growth is. Here's what Dan Ives had to say this morning about SpaceX.
Over the last week is an anticipation of this in terms of little, white knuckle moment. It comes down to like anyone that's owning SpaceX, you're buying it for the Musk factor, and many that bet against Tesla and Musk going back a decade ago. That was proven historically wrong.
Well, Dan, that's where I want to go, the Musk factor, because something, I've been talking about a lot on this show, on various podcasts, is the idea of the Elon Musk premium. That has been a huge benefit to shares of Tesla. Now you have, another crown jewel of the Musk empire that's entering the public markets. Before this, it was really just Tesla that was your only public market entry point into that universe. Can that Elon Musk premium be sustained across two different publicly listed companies?
Well, look, and to that point, we believe over the next year, we've talked about over an 80% chance that Tesla and SpaceX ultimately merge, because I think that's part of the broader plan, specifically when it comes to AI data and all under that Musk ecosystem, especially from a control perspective. Look, this is
150 now, not 155. It continues to go down. Something happened in the past 30 minutes for this thing to be as juiced up as it was, to lose, 9% of the valuation that it was getting at 950? I don't know. 150 is a way different pop than 175.
So it's interesting. I'm reading some of the comments, and one of them was Stephen Hood. You do not have to have $1 extra in your account to buy shares. Schwab requires 100,000. I'm wondering.
Wait, hold on. Schwab requires 100 grand to buy the IPO.
I don't know. I did not fill out any.
Did someone confirm that? I don't think that's true. 100 grand.
I have no idea. All I know is that may be why some of my buddies got allocations, because they put in for significantly more than 100,000, and maybe there's not a lot of people putting in on those platforms compared to Hood.
You're right. People are saying that's probably why your buddies got it.
Yeah.
100K just to get an allocation? That's kind of crazy, bro. I get it, but
is it though?
It's not.
I don't know if it is.
Not democratizing finance.
But those companies aren't about democratizing finance.
I get it. They don't care. They just, they can do what they want. Okay, so that's part of the reason people on Robinhood got one share.
Because they probably had a lot of people putting in for 10, 20, 25 shares, where Schwab had people putting in for 500 to 5,000.
Right.
And they probably had a lot less people putting in, and they probably got a decent amount of shares themselves.
Yeah, well, yeah. Someone said my allocation was 50%. Other people say my allocation was 2%. Yeah, so at some point it was also just a lottery. I'm interested, the 150. That's, dude.
It makes me feel like it's going to close red.
No, I still don't think. All right, put in the chat. What do we think? Red or like now, based on our sentiment?
If it's going from 172 to 150 and it's not even out yet, I mean, they're trying to figure out where they can price it. Here's the question. What's the lockup? People who got allocated shares, can they sell today?
Well, no. So there's a certain threshold. It has to go up 20%, 30%, 40% for people to get it unlocked in a tier system. So if it actually opens at 145, I think a lot of people won't be able to sell.
What about employees that have had shares for God knows how long? Can they sell? Like
those are in a different camp. Yeah.
Who can actually sell?
So there's 4,400 confirmed people that will be millionaires that are early employees. That's $440 million of selling for sure.
Right.
Institutional guys, I don't know. That's a different question. For how long?
Robinhood users can sell on beneficial sign.
Yeah, I mean, retail can sell. You might have a little penalty, but you can sell.
Yeah, I don't know who can sell. That's why I'm asking. Like, who is actually allowed to sell today?
See, this was my first point early in the morning about it's a fun narrative, and Brad Gerstner on these podcasts sounds super smart, but he sounded pretty smart about Cerebras too, and that went from 380 to 200. Like the reality of the public market algorithms and variables, like the Iran news never affected SpaceX, theoretically, because it was a private company. Now, when Iran reports something, SpaceX will react to that because it's a massive company in the stock market that is affected by macro updates. And some of those updates might be rather bearish than not. You know, that affects SpaceX.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Go ahead.
So I had to send a wire last night, and I got a phone call today to verify it. And they kept telling me that they were sending me a notification. I'm like, you're not sending me a notification. There's nothing coming through on my phone. Like, I know how to use technology, right? So I'm in the app. I make sure everything's turned on. I go in the I'm like, they tried sending it 3 times. And I hung up with them, and I actually called the guy that I set my accounts up with. I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? He said, this is what happened. Can you make a call for me and verify me, please? I don't have time to go through this bullshit. He personally calls, gets me on the line. And so I'm not going to say what bank it is, but they sub all this out to a third party to do all their verification for stuff. And I'm telling you, their system, and this is a very large bank, it took 45 minutes for me to get this verified. I had to call a private banker to get it verified. How crazy?
Wire some money?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Bank of America, it takes me less than 20 minutes to send a wire. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was so annoyed. Like, I was in the car also. So if I was live, you would have had the road rage of road rage. Like, it was just, oh my God. That's why I was I'm like, if only I was live right now.
It's crypto use cases, right? That's why we need Ripple and XRP.
XRP, baby.
All right.
3-second settlement.
SPY's dumping, folks. 744 to 741. Still green on the day, but man, that just flipped really quickly. I don't know, folks. If these prices keep coming down, we got to see 150 versus 135. For everyone asking why is it so long, this is typically what happens with IPOs. I know everyone expects it to trade as soon as the market opens. That is not how IPOs work. I wish they made an exception for this one.
If it doesn't go out in the next 10 minutes, it's not coming out till like 1. Because everybody's going to go to lunch.
That's also true.
Who the hell puts an IPO out between 12 and 1? That's lunchtime.
That's true.
To Leslie Picker live at Morgan Stanley's trading floor. Leslie.
Hey, Carl, the current indication is about $160 on 49 million shares. It's actually the middle part of the range, a $5 range in total. Knowing it's kind of the process is one where you see the range moving up, moving down until the stock actually does open. Morgan Stanley and NASDAQ set this range based on all the indications and order flow that they're seeing in terms of investors who want to buy and sell, and they'll move the range accordingly until they feel comfortable in terms of which price they want to actually open this stock for trading. At $160 per share, it would imply a 19% pop and a $2.2 trillion market cap for SpaceX. But we're, of course, going to continue to keep a close eye on those indicative ranges as we get closer to that opening trade, guys.
So early indications were in the low 170s, now down to 160. But having just heard from the NASDAQ executive and now you, it does feel like it is a picture of relative stability coming into today?
It seems like that at this point in time. You do see these ranges kind of fluctuate a bit based on how many people put in their buy orders and sell orders once the market opens. And of course, you see the West Coast wake up maybe within the last hour or so, and they'll put in their trades. And so, yes, the volume of 49 million shares out of 555 million was the size of this offering. So roughly a little less than 10% right now we're looking at in terms of volume, which is around the level that the stabilization agent and the NASDAQ start to feel a bit more comfortable about what they're seeing in terms of volume and the
Interesting. So only 10% of the volume, or the volume is 10% of the amount of shares so they're trying to sell 550 million to the public. They've had 49 million shares get bid up in these orders, which I don't know if that includes all the institutional demand that came prior to this. So they're probably going to want to get to at least 20% to feel comfortable putting it out there. Oh, CNBC update. SpaceX will start trading in 5 minutes.
Ooh, let's go. Like I said, if it doesn't come out in 15 minutes, it's not coming out till 1.
That's right. Kind of has to come out now.
Hey, Carl, anticipation is building, and once again, the IPO team here at the NASDAQ, they're briefing the executives here of SpaceX to help them understand how far we are from the opening trade. The latest messaging we have from the NASDAQ is that we are about 5 minutes away. The indicative price at this point is $150, so that's what we're expecting right now. Remember, the stock was priced at $135 right now, expected to open at around $150, but that number keeps oscillating, so we're going to keep a close eye on where it will open for trade. Obviously, a big moment for the NASDAQ. They were able to clinch this high-profile deal, and a number of executives we've been speaking to here say they've been waiting for this moment for 24 years. There are a number of heartfelt stories being shared by a number of different people, IT managers, people who are in the C-suite, about their experience, the journey it took to get to where they are today. And now, again, minutes away from when SpaceX, a record-breaking IPO, will open for trade. We'll keep you guys updated.
What's happening right now? We see this crowd, Seema. These are employees.
Yeah, so it's majority of employees from SpaceX who are crowding around the NASDAQ IPO trade desk. And you have 2 executives here from the NASDAQ. They're part of the IPO listings team. They're walking through what's happening minute by minute and the indicative price. I can just look over here and see that, again, we're expecting $150 a share. We have Adina Friedman, the CEO of the NASDAQ, because as I said, we are expecting the stock to open very soon here. We are a matter of just a minutes away, and people are sort of crowding around, looking over at his screen to understand where we're at.
And what is taking place right now? I mean, what does it take to open a stock of this magnitude?
Yeah, so it's putting together the book building process, right? It's matching shares, buy and sell orders. But, the challenge and the opportunity here with SpaceX is it's such a large IPO, 556 million shares. No exchange in the world has ever worked on an IPO like this. But I think the idea that this stock is going to open very soon from now tells you that the book building process is going very well. They're being able to match shares and sell orders and buy orders very effectively. And just minutes away here as they put together and firm up the book with the indicative price at this point, just looking over my shoulder right now, at $150 a share right now, Sarah.
Yeah, we've been watching that indication come down from about 174 earlier this morning, now back to 150. Watching very closely. All systems appear to be quite go, as they say, Sarah. And as we've been watching and listening to Musk in Texas today, it is a reminder that, as we said with Kramer, company's 24 years old, almost a quarter century, more than, I think, 13,000.
Indication on the price as we're about to.
Okay. Indication price right now is 150. I'm looking at the screen. That's where it seems to be at this moment. I did hear him say 146, but what the screen is showing is 150. But again, this is a book building process that involves a highly technical process working simultaneously with the stabilization agent, which is Morgan Stanley, to get these trades firmed up and all the buy and sell orders matched. And again, we are getting very, very close.
Meantime, we're starting to get some activity.
It's almost time, folks. It is almost time. It should be in the next minute or two. We're going to see what this looks like. Then it should be live.
Goldman also posting some photos with the words "Go for launch" of their bankers and traders wearing green shoes, which is
Everybody's in the green shoes.
A very important element of today's market and trade.
We saw them on Gwen Shotwell, who's effectively running the company as COO, wearing the green SpaceX shoes as well.
Let's take a listen to what's happening here at the NAS.
We are officially trading here on NASDAQ. So we're
Seema?
moments away from action, moments away from action.
Live on Webull at 150.
Opening for trade. Again, we have the IPO trading team. We're getting very close. Let's listen in. Let's listen in. It says 150. Trade, SpaceX at $150 trade here at the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol SPC.
All right, it is live. Here we go, folks. 150.
151.
There it is.
15.
151. I mean, this is it. You're looking at the live quote right there. It's just straight up. This is it. This is American capitalism at its finest. You've got buyers, you've got sellers. They're going back and forth to figure out what is the appropriate price for SpaceX. Market cap, I'm looking at 1.99 trillion, 2 trillion. I'm seeing 2 trillion on my screen.
God.
Volume is 70 million already. 153. There it is. Look at those orders come in. Look at them come in right there. 150-280. Again, 175 was that initial price. Got walked back down. Maybe that's actually decent because maybe it pumps from 150 to 175 and people get a move if they get to buy it right now.
The fact that it's not falling right now is very bullish.
I think that's pretty bullish too. The fact that it's not falling. SPY's at 740. SPY is very ugly, losing 744. Hopefully we don't lose 740, but we are pretty close. SpaceX 154. There it is, 15% move. 2.02 trillion. 155 is there. 155, 156. It is being walked up from that 150 level.
I wonder what Elizabeth Warren is saying right now.
Yeah, I don't think she's the happiest. She tried to delay the IPO. And that was the funniest thing. It's like, Elizabeth Warren, you are not going to delay IPO to investigate it. 160, 18% up. 18% up. 160. I mean, honestly, it's better it opened at 150 versus 175 because now it's got some margin of safety to work with.
Yeah.
81 million shares.
That's probably why they put it out at 150 instead of 175.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably it might have been more strategic than bearish, to be honest.
Yeah.
For why they did that. Okay, 160, 162. I'm seeing this thing is moving fast, bro. Musk becomes world's first trillionaire officially. Officially, I said Robinhood crashed. Robinhood's working for me. Looks like it's not working for other people.
People are gonna have a field day with that.
Let me try to get his net worth in real time. Guys, Robinhood's working for me. A lot of you guys saying it's crashing. It might be being selective here, but there must be just so much traffic, which is technically bullish, bullish Robinhood. But it also might have to deal with a lot of orders coming in. 160, 189. Place an order. Okay, let me try to place an order. It's actually a good point. I didn't try to do that. I just placed an order. Your market order to buy. They just gave it to me at 158. They gave me one, 158.77.
Nice. You're making some money.
I have bought a share, and as soon as they give it, it takes.
Mitt's making some money, everybody. I love it.
You guys told me to buy a share to see if it works. It works. It's just they gave me a share, and now I'm down. No, now I'm up 50 cents. It's okay. I'm good. I'm good. Webull's different from Robinhood. Webull is showing a different price, and Webull's slower than Robinhood, actually. It's just moving that fast.
No, it's losing 160. Now it's back. Now it's losing. Now it's back. I feel like we're at the track. Now it's down. 156. We just lost $4 in a blink of a second.
No, but see, Robin is showing 150. Yeah, it's just so quick. Well, now Robin is like kind of halted on it. Now it's not even showing a price. Now it's stuck. Showing me 159, now 156. Oh my gosh. Your first DCA, yeah. Community member.
Crazy.
Wait, hold on.
Crazy.
So I wonder what my dad's thinking right now.
What do you mean?
Because he got 14 shares at 135.
Oh, nice.
I wonder if he's going to sell it. I wonder S&P 740. Some VC just dumped his share that he bought at 3 cents on me at 158. That's exactly what just happened. My son bought the top. Okay, it's definitely not exploding past 160. It got to 163 for a couple seconds. Can we break it back above again? It's really trying for 160 again. Up 161. I'm green, baby. I'm up $3. I'm green. You can't see it on Webull, but I can see it on Robinhood. Robinhood showing me 162. Okay, for all the people saying Hood crashed, I guess it's selective because for me it worked, but for some people it might not be. Dude, these volumes are 109 million shares within 3 minutes.
You know why it didn't crash for you? Because you're using SpaceX internet from Starlink.
But I'm not.
Trying to make a joke, man.
Dude, I wish I had that internet, to be honest. Might have made it easier.
Where they kind of assess demand and it, you know, I kind of wonder if that fixed price is an anomaly for SpaceX or if it's something that will be used with other companies, especially that have this kind of caliber and name recognition in the future.
Leslie Picker over at Morgan Stanley. We'll talk in a bit. Thanks so much, Leslie. Meantime, at this price, Elon Musk officially becomes the first trillionaire of the human race. Our next guest was an early investor in SpaceX twice at 2 different funds. Joining us this morning in a CNBC exclusive is Gavin Baker, currently managing partner and CAO at Atreides Management, a large shareholder of SpaceX. He's been tweeting actively today. Gavin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Talk about this moment. How does it feel?
It feels like a point in a journey. This is not the end. I think it's a new beginning of what's hopefully even a more exciting journey to Moon, to Mars, to orbital compute. But it is special to be here at Starbase with the launch towers behind us.
It certainly was probably one of the more emotional opening bells, at least with Musk, that we've ever seen. I do have to ask you, though, now, public life as a company comes with its own set of challenges, impatience from the street, quarter.
Okay, we'll get back to that, but the stock is moving, baby. Are we at 168? We are 165. On Robinhood, we are at 164-ish. It touched 167. Did anyone buy? Put in the chat. Did anyone buy in this last 10 minutes? SPY 740, Robinhood 93, SpaceX 168. All right, your boy's up $8. Get a nice coffee right now.
There you go. Make sure it's Starbucks.
Dude, Starbucks is disgusting. I don't get why you like it.
Starbucks is delicious. Let's not get crazy.
Okay, I see a bunch of people saying Spencer said she day traded it. Garcia said I got 39. A bunch of people say they got 151, 152. I mean, it's up a lot from there. You can't be too upset, right? Up almost $12. Bought 2 shares for each of my boys. I love that. All of you saying Hood crash. I mean, I mean, it's not crashing for me, but obviously I guess there's a lot of traffic there. Got my buy at 153. Where's Microsoft? Where's big tech? Microsoft is still falling, 387. Google at 362. Meta at 570. So I think in the Mag 7 watch list, I think we got to add SpaceX here, right? Got to have SpaceX there. You just see it every day. I mean,
new acronyms got to come out.
New acronyms got to come out, right? Mag 7's kind of old. Like, it's got to be something new that we see there. SpaceX 165. Rocket Lab and ASTS. Yeah. 11% down. ASTS 14% down. Your proxies are not really trading like proxies right now. Steve, what do you think of Rocket Lab getting into the NASDAQ 100 yesterday?
You don't want to know my thoughts on that.
No, that's why I asked you the question. I want to
look. I don't want to disrespect anybody, but I think it's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
I don't know. They're not profitable. They don't even do $1 billion of revenue. I mean,
well, look, if SpaceX is diverging from all the space trades, then I wonder. I mean, like it going up and the other one's going down. I wonder if this one ends up going down with the other space trades.
I mean, I feel better about CoreWeave only because of the RPO. Like we know what the contracted revenue is going to be.
Robinhood's not letting me sell, even though I submitted order fully. It's not filling. All right, I'm selling mine too. I'm going to see if this one.
They're removing the sell button.
Okay, I just submitted. It is not sold yet. It is still in order. It's trying to sell, but it's not getting there. Again, there must be a lot of volume coming in through right here. I just put it in order to sell. This is what I'm looking at on my screen. Your market order.
Crazy.
I mean, if they don't get this sold, people are going to be upset. But I also think this is a pretty historic IPO. There's so many orders coming in. I mean, it is not the easiest to route this. Fidelity's down. Yeah, I don't think it's Hood, dude. I think it's every brokerage is like trying to figure out how to deal with all this. But obviously, it's probably hurting for a lot of people as well. S&P, we just lost 740. That's not the best. Wow. 744 to 738. Every bit of the pump just wrecked. It makes you wonder why any of these names that are green are going to be able to hold their green. Nebius lost 238. AMD lost 515. Rocket Lab is potentially about to lose 100. Have we lost? Oh my goodness, we lost 100.
Really? That's not good.
Last time we lost 100. No, this is the first time we lost 100 since the pump started. Last time was freaking May 8th. It's been a month. It's been a month here. It's fighting to hold on to it. SpaceX still didn't fill for me. 163 now, so that 160, I mean, it's still up from 150. 150 million shares officially trading.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're getting down detector now. User reports indicate problems with Robinhood.
The Robinhood server crash? I mean, that would be crazy if there's that many people trading.
It had to. It had to.
I can't believe it.
And again, you know, Robinhood does not want people to not be able to sell. So, like, these are very complex challenges in unprecedented times. And so, obviously, they're trying to navigate it. I'm sure Fidelity, Schwab, they're all trying to navigate it. But 150 million shares in 10 minutes on an IPO, I don't think we've ever seen that, at least in the past couple of years.
Efficient manner. So we opened on 58 million shares, $150. I saw a lot of support in the book, so I think it's turning right around 160ish or so. So I think the book came together as they were hoping to in a very efficient manner.
The retail allocation of 20%, that presented a big unknown. How do you think how that went?
Well, you want to put that in context. So 20% is roughly 15 billion of the raise was retail, which is larger than most IPOs. That's a huge IPO. So I think that added a little bit of support to the stock for sure. It's obviously a Tesla's a very retail-owned stock as well. So they love the excitement, the story, and they're very educated investors, and they were excited to participate.
Walk us through some of the mechanisms that are now in place in case we see a lot of volatility in the stock, because it is right now sort of up 20%. We're watching it closely.
Yeah, there is a process in the market called limit up, limit down, where if you see a sudden burst in price, then you might have a pause in the market. But usually that would happen very quickly. It has not happened. So we would anticipate a pretty fluid rest of the day today. I'm sure it's going to move around some as investors are looking to either increase their positions or take some profits. But that limit up, limit down really just gives the pause of market if you had a sudden burst in the price, about 10% up or down in this case. And we don't see that happening right now.
You don't see that happening.
Well, we would anticipate if that would happen, it might be a burst after.
Okay, hold on. Everyone who has the Robinhood, put in a limit order, not a market order. I just put in a limit order and I immediately got filled. And I got filled above my limit, actually. Put in a limit order, not a market order. That might be the solution. So go to Robinhood, press limit, which actually makes sense because if you give them a limit, they can actually accurately match it. Whereas if you do a market order, it's just chaos in the market. So they immediately filled me 160.27. So we made $2. But the point is, I put the limit at 160 and it filled 27 cents above that. That might potentially resolve it.
The open, meaning there's a heavy bunch of orders that could not get in, and they got in a lot of retail-driven orders, and that didn't happen. So I'm not saying it definitely will not happen, but we feel like we've reached a point of stability at this point.
With all the data you've captured over the last 20 minutes, how would you characterize the amount of demand for this IPO?
I think incredible. You look at a deal of that size, again, the largest ever, 75 million. The largest prior to that was 30 million at Aramco. So the size was unprecedented. The demand from the long-only participants was significant. So the combination of long-only, great retail participation, some obviously smart active traders. I think it was a very diversified book. I think the underwriters did an amazing job. And obviously SpaceX and their finance team also is right there for the ride.
The other IPOs and the offerings, have they been watching this IPO closely, do you think?
I would think they certainly would to say, how did it play out? Can the market digest an offering of this size?
And how much retail participation to allow?
Yeah, and every company is different in terms of the retail interest, but clearly they'll take some learnings from this, as well as the banks. You know, the banks are involved in this. We'll certainly be talking to the larger deals, saying how did it work, what worked well, and what they may want to consider. So I think, yes, it certainly offered a good blueprint.
Opening before.
Okay, she's going down, folks. So I got in at 158.50. I got out just now at 160.27 on that one share. Again, I put a limit for 160. They took me out a little bit above it. So if you got in at 150, 151 and you want to get out and market orders aren't working, maybe put a limit for 156 and see what happens here. But obviously there are people that are selling because 168 is not holding. All right, folks, S&P 739, Rocket Lab, ASTS, this whole space trade getting whacked outside of SpaceX itself. But it's only $5 away from losing the initial IPO price.
I mean, do we think that now that SpaceX is public, people exit the other space trades because now they can actually buy SpaceX?
Yeah, I think that's very possible.
And people that are up a lot of money on these things, they can get into SpaceX now because they may not have been accredited investors.
I think that absolutely could happen. The issue here is just, you know, it had that initial pop up to 169, and maybe that's when people started selling their space trades to jump into it. Brady says E-Trade has limit orders that are working as well. But, you know, then it dumped from there.
That's pretty wild.
CFRA Research initiates coverage with sell rating on SpaceX. Target price 115. See, now they're going to have to deal with the sell side.
Yeah.
And that it's not fun when you wake up in the morning and one of your significant holdings gets a downgrade from some random analyst that for some reason Wall Street cares so much about. Like that's the part of the public markets you're going to have to deal with.
And it will happen. That's the thing.
It absolutely will happen. I mean, the hedge funds literally will make sure they can manipulate it to happen. It's a grimy game. The only way to really beat the game is to go long, and over the long term, the companies hopefully continue to execute. But still, it's just not as easy as the narrative when there's so many different variables here. SpaceX 159. It is now officially, look at that, top 7 companies on the planet. $2.076 trillion.
And I think that's where I have a problem with it. That it's the 7th largest company in the market and it doesn't make money.
Well, it makes money. It's just,
it doesn't turn a profit.
Yeah, because they bought XAI.
Right.
I mean, I would imagine in a few quarters they're going to be profitable. But yeah, I mean, look, it's if you look at the financials of that and then all the companies above it, it's obviously night and day. I really wonder if this thing loses this 150 level, because then you just have a ton of people that are rejecting the pricing on this. Options expect to be trading on Tuesday after IPO. Tuesday after IPO for SpaceX.
Disclosure. What's that going to be like for a business that is so capital intensive and runs on long cycles?
I would just point you to the early days of Amazon, which was investing heavily in a business, and the stock market was very supportive of those investments because it saw that there was an ROI. We know that SpaceX was able to get, per my friends at Altimeter's calculation, a 55% IRR on their Colossus 1 data center. So when you have IRRs like that, I think markets are generally supportive.
Hold on one sec. Let me pull up. We have Gerstner live talking about this as well.
On the Frontier Lab,
right? To try and obviously.
The last time I was on the show, just a couple weeks ago, I said everything about the IPO changed. Why? Because they had moved into the category of being an AI hyperscaler. In literally 6 weeks, they went from not in the game to $27 billion of AI hyperscaler revenue with big deals from Anthropic and Google. What is the one thing we can all underwrite? I think we can all agree Elon Musk and the team at SpaceX are as capable as anybody on the planet. Jensen has said they're number one at standing up terrestrial data centers, at standing up AI data centers. On my podcast, Jensen said they did in 100 days what it took others 2 to 3 years to do. So if the bet, in going from 20 billion or 18 billion last year to 160 billion, a huge portion of that is standing up AI data centers and leasing them right to the Anthropics of the world, the Googles of the world. I think they're going to run away and consolidate that business. My estimate is in a few years, they're going to be the largest AI hyperscaler in the United States.
I mean, it's probably why, as you heard Sequoia's Sean McGuire in the interview with our friends in the prior hour suggest that massive TAM that I mentioned could be, in his words, an underestimate. This company has the most important mission of any company in history, he said. Thinking about 10 years from now, I think of it more like NVIDIA 3 years ago. High confidence in the explosive revenue growth that they can deliver. And he made the point, I think, which was really interesting to listen to, and they can ramp really quickly. To your point, they've already proven their ability to ramp certain parts of the business really quickly. So doubt those large numbers at your own peril, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, today, this was not a get-rich-quick scheme today. $1.7 trillion is not a inadequate valuation. You see the stock up 20% today. So when I was getting calls from my mom and my siblings, should I buy the SpaceX stock on retail? I said, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but if you want to own it for a year or 2 years, I think you're going to do really well. Competitive returns from this one. I mentioned the AI hyperscalers. What we haven't mentioned is the pending acquisition of Cursor. Look, we were looking at investing in Cursor. I think it was probably the next best lab in the country beyond the Frontier Labs. We thought this company could get to 10 billion in revenue on its own this year. Right now, coupled with SpaceX, we think they can really have a shot at building, with that huge compute infrastructure, really building another Frontier Lab. Remember, intelligence is the log of compute. They have the largest coherent clusters in the country. And so we think they're going to be in the game at building X.AI into a real frontier lab.
Steph, you're one of the few in our orbit, pardon the pun, who wanted in on this IPO, who said you're going to be a buyer. Are you?
I thought this was going to be up 40, 50%, up 20. It's an absolute screaming buy. But I also said you buy a small position, it's going to be volatile, and you just set it and you forget it. Because he has a great track record, Elon Musk. Tesla was up 25,000% since their 2010 IPO. And that is a big, big number. So who knows what this company is going to do, but a total addressable market, even if it's half of the 28.5 trillion that is estimated, that's still huge runway for this company. And founder-led companies usually increase shareholder returns by double. So you want to own a founder-led company. They have the sense of urgency.
You heard that, Steve? 20%. It's a screaming buy.
Screaming.
Screaming's a hell of.
Screaming.
I mean, if you think it should be up 50%, then yeah, there's another 30% to go here.
Yeah, I guess money's not real.
Screaming buy.
Screaming buy.
I mean, the fact that it couldn't open up to the levels that people thought it would, I think is more indication than not of if it's a screaming buy. But she is right. It's a founder-led company. Their TAM is gigantic. I mean, all the fundamentals. That's the thing about this. All the fundamentals are so strong. It's just the valuation.
You know what else is a founder-led company?
I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
You're going to say Zucky Zucks.
Zucky Zuck is a founder-led company, ladies and gentlemen, but it's not a buy for some reason.
Dude, Zucks has got to be looking at this like.
Zuck has got to be like, what do I have to do? I cut my hair. I started doing MMA. I put Dana White on the board. I'm wakeboarding. Like, what do I got to do? I'm lifting weights. I'm doing Navy SEAL training. What do I got to do?
No, for real. What does Zucks have to do to get people to buy a company at 13 times?
I don't know what Zuck needs to do, but it's, I don't know.
Someone said you guys sound like boomers on this. The most funny part of the criticism of people that are criticizing the valuation is a lot of the people that I talk to in tech markets, crypto, they're not 90 years old. Like, they're millennials saying this doesn't make sense valuation wise. It has nothing to do with age. And if you say it has to do with age, it's like, are you even kind of caring about valuation? Because if you don't care about valuation, that's totally fine. But that's not something that I think a 27-year-old is like, oh, I just don't care about it at all.
Yeah, I'll tell you that my buddies that got more than 1,000 shares allocated are not boomers, and they all had a common theme. Their common theme was, we think it's going to pop and we're going to get out of it. That was their common theme.
I mean, and I mean, I would imagine they got a 20% pop. Who knows? Maybe, 20% on 2,000 shares is a lot of money. They might be out of it, My VC friends that are also one of my best VC friends, he's 32. He says, Amit, as soon as they give us the green light, we are out. Like, we are not holding this thing after we held it for 6 years at this type of valuation in the public markets.
Why would you? You made so much money. You don't need to hold it. You won.
Yeah, so like criticizing the valuation, criticizing the exit liquidity, all that stuff, that's just a common part of analyzing this. Versus being like, oh, we're boomer. A boomer take would be like, I don't understand space. I think space is fake. No one's going up into space. There's no commercial TAM. They're like, that's more of that type of a criticizing the risk reward at buying something for everyone saying, oh, well, why are you buying large caps? Large caps are boring. They don't have risk reward. Then how do you say you buy SpaceX? SpaceX is a large cap. It's a mega cap. There's plenty of better risk rewards at smaller valuations that probably can move way quicker than a SpaceX. But that's not a boomer take. That's just analyzing the numbers. Adobe getting a little bit of a pump. Palantir 128. SPY kind of stuck at 741. At least it's not at 738. It's still slightly green here.
It's funny how people think it's boomer to look at numbers.
It's like, I don't know.
It's crazy. Well, SpaceX is 164.82 right now.
Where's Rocket Lab, bro? They're taking her down. Oh, no, they're back. 104. Okay. She was down. Now she's up a little bit more.
Tremendously, and your profits are going up enormously. The revenue opportunity and everything that Brad outlined. And by the way, if you can't listen to that and get excited about this business, there's actually something wrong with you. This IPO is the most engineered IPO in history, too. Do you think any of the underwriters are not going to support this? The size of the offering, the retail participation. So there's a lot to be excited about. The index inclusion, right?
NASDAQ 100 in about 15 days.
So much that is supportive of here. Now, there is a huge underwriter's lockup coming off at some point in the future. There may be an opportunity at some point to be a better buyer. However, I think there's so much enthusiasm around this. And if you're a really long-term thinker and you believe in the visionary characteristics of this man, I don't know how you can't be excited. And I think the writing's on the wall in the roadshow that this and Tesla could be together at some point in time.
Well, that's the great speculation. So stock's up about 20-ish%. As Leslie Picker was saying from the trading floor of Morgan Stanley, the sweet spot, if you will, and how these things are,
Pakistani PM just now, we can confirm that a final agreed upon text of the peace deal has been reached, and Pakistan is now working closely with both sides to finalize the next steps. That should be giving us a little bit of a pop. Not really. Not on SPY, not too much. But Pakistan confirming there is absolutely a deal that has been agreed to. SpaceX trying to go back for the highs, topped out at 168.75. It is not that far away. Virgin Galactic, that's down 30%. The other space names are down.
Can you believe 215 million shares have traded? We just crossed 216.
I mean, if we can get 170, bro, that would be psychologically, I think, super important. There's that red candle at 165. Well, look, even if it ends at this price, it was a successful IPO. 20% pop.
I mean, if it ended at 151, it was a successful IPO. They didn't go red.
Yeah.
Could end at 145. Technically, it's up from 135.
Yeah. Yeah, so for all the people that couldn't sell on Robinhood, they were just protecting you to wait a little bit to make some more money. And now you should be able to sell at a higher price. There you go. Oh, yeah, we do have the Fed meeting next week. That's true.
16th and 17th.
16th and 17th. That is correct. All right, folks. That is the IPO. That is officially it. I will be back on the market close, and we will discuss ultimately where the stock ended at and where we go from there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, people will be looking at it throughout the entire day, trying to see how this one ends up playing out. IPO is officially live, but obviously it'll take some time over the coming days and weeks to see how this one is going to be priced. 165.45 S&P. We got some good news from Iran and Pakistan. That one up on the day, but not up a lot. Still green. The other space names just getting hit. Maybe people selling those to buy SpaceX. And then you got SpaceX at 166. Where's Tesla? Tesla's still down on the day. It's going to be fun to see how Tesla and SpaceX trade every day as well. Like there might be, Tesla and NVIDIA are the top two traded stocks in the options market and basically have been for the past 3 years. I wonder if SpaceX gets in there. And, because it's going to be such a liquid market, people will just happily buy options and calls and puts every day on that name as well. All right. Well, that is what we got. So I'm going to be leaving. I think Steve will continue to stay live. I'll put his link in the chat. This should be able to work because I should be able to remove myself from StreamYard. If it ends the entire stream, then I think Steve will just make another link, but it should be fine.
I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to share my screen and stuff.
Yeah, you can share your screen right now. I think you should be able to.
Hold on. No, but without you publishing it. Hold on.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't bring it up.
Okay, let me remove myself right now. So let me remove myself. So I'm removing myself right now. And if it doesn't work, then Steve will just start a new link.
Yep.
I'll be back on the market close, guys. Again, Steve's link. Let me put it in the chat so people can go to that. If not, just stay on this channel. We'll have a new one soon. And we'll be back on the close. There you go. That's the SpaceX IPO 165. Opened at 150, up 23%. We'll see where it closes later throughout the day. All right, removing myself. Let me remove